Chapter 1387. Yunjian's words left Lu Shan's mouth agape, slightly stunned. When she regained her senses, Lu Shan continued, "How could a teenage girl like you have touched a real gun? What's with the latest gun? Don't tell me you've touched one in your dreams. You're saying that these guns are outdated." At this point, Lu Shan could not help but add, "The person who wrote this book has studied it thoroughly." The person who wrote the book had done his research. How could he not know about handguns? How could a little girl like you be spouting nonsense? I see that your mother is usually serious and proper. Why is a little girl like you full of nonsense? Lu Shan walked over to lecture Yun Jian. And now, she had indeed achieved her goal. Catching the chance, Lu Shan lectured Yun Jian fervently. With that, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Yun Jian ignored Lu Shan. She walked over and zipped up her bag, holding the book in one hand and the bag in the other. Then, she walked to the bench on the other side and sat down. She put down her bag, flipped open the book, and continued reading. She moved to another spot, but she did not bother with the talkative middle-aged woman. Some of the female staff around them saw this and covered their mouths in amusement. "This young lady is interesting." A female staff chuckled and turned to look at where Qin Yiru was a distance away. She then called out to the woman who had gone far away, "Miss Qin, I'm sorry, Miss Qin. Yiru, your daughter is interesting." Qin Yiru did not fully understand her shout and did not react for a while. Lu Shan stomped her feet angrily and walked toward Yun Jian. However, just as Lu Shan took 2 steps toward Yun Jian, there was a sound from the florist's entrance. A man's voice called out to Lu Shan, "Mom, I'm not feeling well today, so I took the day off. My younger sister insisted on looking for you, so I brought her here." Lu Shan had a son and a daughter. Her son was in his 2nd year of high school and her daughter was only 4.5 years old. Her mother-in-law was taking care of her at home. Hearing her son's voice, Lu Shan hurriedly turned around and saw her son, Ning Shang, standing there impatiently. "Mom, Mom." Her daughter, little Yuan, ran over and ran into Lu Shan's arms. It was still a school day. Ning Shang had taken the day off not because he was not feeling well, but because he had agreed to go shopping with his girlfriend. He had brought his younger sister, little Yuan, here to cover up his actions. However, Ning Shang did not expect to see such a scene. A young girl around the age of 16 lowered her head slightly, her long and narrow eyelashes fluttering up and down. She sat quietly on the rest bench, quiet, but so beautiful that no one could ignore her existence. Ning Shang's restless mood immediately turned for the better. "Mom, what's the work? I'll do it for you." Ning Shang hurried to Lu Shan, wanting to show off in front of Yun Jian, so he spoke to Lu Shan proactively. "I'll get off work soon, so I'm almost done with my work." Lu Shan said and placed little Yuan on the floor. She glared at Yun Jian before patting little Yuan's hand and telling her, "You're right. Go play with that big sister over there. Be good. She's very nice. She'll play with you." Lu Shan knew that her daughter, little Yuan, liked to wreak havoc, so she revealed a sinister smile. Sure enough, little Yuan quickly ran over and said to Yun Jian, "Big sister, I'll play with you." As she spoke, little Yuan grabbed Yun Jian and placed her bag beside her without asking for her permission. Her bag was unzipped as she had changed books just now. When little Yuan grabbed the bag, all the things inside fell out. Lu Shan thought that her scheme had succeeded. She looked up and saw the things that fell out of Yun Jian's bag with her son. In addition to a few weapon books, there were more than 20 butterfly knives, as well as various blades and daggers. She thought that since Yun Jian was a girl, she would definitely have some girly things in her bag. She did not expect that Yun Jian's bag would be filled with knives. Chapter 1388. Lu Shan was stunned because she thought that Yun Jian's bag must be filled with books related to learning. Therefore she had asked her daughter, little Yuan, to knock over Yun Jian's bag. She thought that Yun Jian's bag was either filled with books related to learning or those weapons books that she used to put on an act. However, Lu Shan had never expected that Yun Jian's bag would be filled with all sorts of butterfly knives, razor blades, and daggers. Moreover, there was a whole bunch of them. What was she trying to do? Kill someone? She was just a girl. Although she had been admitted to the military academy, she was just a girl. Why would her bag be filled with all sorts of small knives instead of books related to learning? This Lu Shan was stunned at the moment. Lu Shan's son, Ning Sheng, was stunned as well. When Ning Sheng first saw Yun Jian, he thought that Yun Jian was just a gentle and quiet girl. He thought that Yun Jian was the kind of girl who would follow the path of life and listen to her parents, study hard and get into high school. When Yun Jian was reading the books earlier, he thought that Yun Jian was looking at the learning material. He even had the illusion that he was in love with Yun Jian. However, he had never expected that Yun Jian's bag would be filled with knives. Not just one. They were all knives. Just when Ning Shang was extremely shocked, Lu Shan's astonished voice had already come. She shouted in a panic, "Oh my God! You're a girl. It's normal for you to have books on weapons in your bag. Why aren't there any textbooks in your bag? There's only a black pen. Everything else is knives. Why are you so weird, little girl?" Lu Shan's screams quickly attracted the attention of the other employees in the florist. Qin Yiru was also attracted by Lu Shan's screams. She saw that her daughter Yun Jian's bag had been overturned and that it was filled with all sorts of knives. "Oh my God! Everyone, come and take a look. Yiru, your daughter's bag is filled with knives." Those who didn't know better would think that he was going to kill someone. Look, look. Lu Shan's shouts continued unabated. After the commotion, even the manager of the flower shop, Wen Min, came back. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. Lu Shan was still hooting. "Pick it up." Just as Lu Shan's long-winded words continued, Yun Jian's faint voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, everyone present was stunned. Lu Shan was also stunned. She didn't expect that Yun Jian would actually shout at her daughter, "Little Yuan Yuan," to pick up the knife that had fallen over. Lu Shan's little daughter, Little Yuan Yuan, who loved to cause trouble, pretended not to hear Yun Jian's words. She even pulled Yun Jian's bag and shook out the last thing in Yun Jian's bag. Hee hee. Fun. Lu Shan's daughter, Little Yuan Yuan, even laughed out loud. Then, she patted Yun Jian's bag and tossed it to the ground. "Pick it up." Yun Jian raised her voice. She frowned and suddenly raised her voice. Her shout frightened Lu Shan's daughter, Little Yuan Yuan, so much so that she trembled and burst into tears. This bag was the one that Qin Yiru had bought for her. When Qin Yiru saw this, she was about to go up and help Lu Shan's daughter, Little Yuan Yuan, pick up her bag when she was stopped by Yun Jian. "I was just about to test the power of these knives. Are you guys trying to challenge my limits?" Yun Jian said casually, but the words that came out of her mouth made one's hair stand on end. "I'll pick it up, I'll pick it up." Lu Shan was shocked. She was afraid that Yun Jian would really do something to her daughter, so she quickly squatted down to pick up the knives one by one and put them back into the bag. Lu Shan was picking up the knives, but her attention was still on Yun Jian. Qin Yiru went to Yun Jian worriedly. Qin Yiru asked Yun Jian worriedly, "Xiao Jian, 2 or 3 knives are enough. Why did you bring so many?" Hearing Qin Yiru's question, the employees around them, including the florist manager, Wen Min, were stunned. What did she mean by 2 or 3 knives are enough? Was this how she, as a mother, should educate her child? In spite of it, what came next shocked them even more. Yun Jian's red lips curled up as she told Qin Yiru with a smile, "My friend collected these 21 butterfly knives and gave them to me." What kind of friend had such a hobby? Collecting butterfly knives as gifts. Chapter 1389. Your friend, male or female, actually gave you a knife? Wen Min looked at Yun Jian in shock. She did not mean any harm. She was just a little shocked. Yun Jian glanced at Wen Min. She heard from Qin Yiru that Wen Min was a very kind person. Although she was the owner and manager of the flower shop, she was never harsh on her employees. She would even treat her employees for a meal, and she would pay for all the expenses. Considering that the employees in the shop were all women in their 30s and 40s who had to rush home to cook for their children or husbands, Wen Min even asked the employees to invite their families over for a meal. There were not many managers like this in this day and age. It could be said that they were extremely rare. "She's a girl. She's my best friend." Yun Jian's red eyes widened slightly as she replied to Wen Min. Yun Jian's expression was very serious when she spoke. It did not seem like she was joking. At this time, Lu Shan quickly picked up all the knives that her daughter had scattered on the ground. Lu Shan stood up straight. She had been watching Yun Jian's every move. Now that she heard Yun Jian's words, Lu Shan did not wait for Wen Min to speak and spoke first. Heh, what friends of life and death. What kind of ups and downs can you guys go through at this age? I'm afraid you guys haven't even stepped out of society yet. How can you be my best friend? Young people, you should be more realistic when you speak. Lu Shan had ordered her daughter to flip through Yun Jian's bag. She thought that she had the upper hand in front of Yun Jian. However, she did not expect Yun Jian to threaten her with such a tone. Lu Shan loved her daughter very much, so she quickly rushed over to help Yun Jian pick up the knife. She was afraid that Yun Jian would do something to her daughter. Lu Shan's tone was sarcastic, but the people around them could hear the displeasure she felt toward Yun Jian in her words. Yun Jian ignored her. Therefore, the atmosphere quickly became gloomy. It's time to get off work. Go pack up and go to the restaurant. Everyone can go for lunch. When Min finally felt that the atmosphere was not good, so she suggested. Hearing Wan Min's words, everyone agreed. Lu Shan also felt that it was boring, so she took her son and daughter to the restaurant first. Mom, let's go, Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru as she stood up and zipped up her bag. I'll go wash my hands first. Qin Yiru nodded and went to the back door of the florist. The Kulai Xian restaurant was just an ordinary restaurant with a large round table. There were many employees in the flower shop, so Wan Min arranged 2 tables for them. After everyone sat down, Yun Jian found that Lu Shan and her son and daughter were also sitting at the same table as her and Qin Yiru. Manager Wan Min was also sitting at the same table as him. Yun Jian lowered her eyes and didn't say anything. At the dining table, a large group of people immediately started chatting. After a while, the topic turned to the children's studies. Lu Shan was still holding a grudge. At this moment, she could not wait to present Yun Jian's poor studies in front of everyone. Of course, it was Lu Shan's own opinion that Yun Jian was poor in her studies. After all, why would a girl who was good in her studies go to a military school? Of course, her results were good when she got into a military school. But Lu Shan remembered Qin Yiru saying that Yun Jian was the default candidate for the military school. If that was the case, Yun Jian's results must be poor. My son's school is number 3 high school. He didn't do well in the middle school entrance exam, but he still got into a regular high school, Lu Shan boasted proudly before turning to ask Qin Yiru. Yiru, your daughter got into a military school. Her results should be okay, right? How's her middle school entrance exam results? Lu Shan asked. However, she thought to herself, how good can her results be if she was sent there by default? Adults at this age like to talk about their children's results. If they were good in their studies, it meant that they had a bright future ahead of them. They did not know that they were extremely stupid. My results are average. Yun Jian did not let Qin Yiru continue the conversation and answered calmly. Lu Shan's smile widened when she heard that. However, before Lu Shan's smile could widen, Yun Jian's words were heard in the next second, startling every parent present. Chapter 1390. It was just an accident. When Lu Shan first heard Yun Jian say this, she thought that Yun Jian would say an unbearably low result, so she was already pressing her lips together, ready to laugh out loud after Yun Jian announced her results. However, Yun Jian said, I was just an accident and got first place in the city? First place in the city? First place in Longmen City? This result was just an accident? Lu Shan was stunned. She maintained her posture of moving her chopsticks to pick up a piece of pork trotter. She was stunned on the spot. Oh my god! First place in the city? Yiru, your daughter got first place in the city? Before Lu Shan could recover from her shock, a woman who was also a florist stood up and exclaimed at Qin Yiru. Yiru, you said that your daughter got first place in the city? Why didn't you mention it? There's more. Your daughter is so good in her studies. Why did you let her go to the military school? Why didn't you let her apply for DE High School? Our DE High School's cutoff is so high, but your daughter can do it. Can your daughter get in? She's the first in the city. Someone stood up and told Qin Yiru immediately. DE High School was a key public high school in Longmen City. The cutoff was very high and it was also the best high school in Longmen City. This was just the objective aspect. In general, the students who graduated from DE High School were the most promising students in the eyes of their parents. Yun Yi was a student of DE High School. Therefore, when the people present heard that Yun Jian's cutoff was so high, their first thought was, why didn't she apply for DE High School with such good results? No one noticed that Lu Shan's face was paling bit by bit. She looked so ashamed that she was speechless. My Jian wants to go to the military school. She's quite talented, so I support her to choose what she wants to do. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth in response to the crowd. Qin Yiru was very low-key and humble. She was very kind to others and was not vain. Although she had such an excellent daughter, she never bragged about it. To be able to do this, it had to be said that people like Qin Yiru were very rare. The surrounding women sighed. Everyone felt that it was a pity that Yunjian didn't go to the first high school with her grades. Lu Shan, who was a little ashamed just now, suddenly raised her head. That was right. Even if Yunjian had gotten first place before, she was still the former top student of Longmen City. She was stupid to have chosen the military school. That was all in the past. Lu Shan instantly raised her head to look at Yunjian. Then she said to Yunjian with a bit of confidence, "You're a girl, and you're going to the bottom of the military academy. You're not willing to go to a key high school to further your studies. Isn't that stupid?" Lu Shan's words made Yunjian raise her eyebrows. At the bottom? Yunjian raised her eyebrows and almost couldn't help but chuckle. When did she say that she was at the bottom of the military academy? Isn't that so? You're a girl, and you want to compete with boys in terms of strength? Do you think you can beat him? Lu Shan said in succession, and there was a strong sense of confidence in her voice. Was there a need for a girl to compete with a boy in terms of strength? Of course, it was the boys who were stronger. Just as Lu Shan finished speaking, Yunjian took out a certificate from her pocket and placed it in front of Qin Yiru. She ignored Lu Shan directly and spoke to Qin Yiru instead. "Mom, I'm first place in the freshmen's military training this time. There are 3 freshmen who entered the elite class directly. I'm one of them while the other 2 are my friends. The school gave this certificate to me as a reward for being the first place. I can take leave and leave school any time during classes in the future. There's no need for any reason." As she spoke, before Lu Shan and the rest could digest it, Yunjian spoke again while they were still stunned. Chapter 1391. What Yunjian said stunned everyone present. First of all, Yunjian had won first place in the military training? No one present was surprised that the military school would rank students for their military training. What they did not expect, however, was that Yunjian had won first place in the military training. That, moreover, the women present were mostly parents. To them, their children's studies were the most important. In Longmen City, being able to get into DE High School was akin to being the top scorer in ancient times to many parents. Yet, Yunjian said that her brother had represented DE High School in the language competition and won first place in the province? For the time being, let's not talk about winning the provincial first prize, which was enough to shock people to the core. Based on the first part of the sentence, was Yunjian's brother not Qin Yiru's son? Qin Yiru had a son and her son had gotten into DE High School. Her daughter was so outstanding that she had won first place among the freshmen when she had just entered the school. Yiru, your son and daughter are so outstanding. Even the store manager, Wen Min, stood up in shock as she looked at Qin Yiru and exclaimed in bewilderment. Qin Yiru did not expect Yunjian to blurt everything out. She was taken aback as well, only coming back to her senses after a while. My Xiao Jian and Xiao Yi are only this good. As a mother, I'm quite happy, Qin Yiru said with a smile. Exactly. If I had a daughter and son as good as you, I'd be over the moon. Sigh, speaking of this, I'm pissed off when I think of my disappointing son. Wen Min chimed in as well, but she was smiling at Yunjian and Qin Yiru the entire time. There was a tinge of helplessness in her tone, but it was more genuine than anything else. Qin Yiru soon struck up a friendly conversation with the other employees in the store. Knowing that Qin Yiru's son and daughter were so outstanding, many of them took the initiative to befriend Qin Yiru. People were all like that. It wasn't surprising that they would follow whoever was outstanding. However, Yunjian had achieved her goal. She wanted Qin Yiru to have a better life in the flower shop and make more friends. Of course, Qin Yiru's original intention of working in the flower shop was to make more friends. Lu Shan recovered from her shock. Although she was unwilling, she couldn't say anything at this moment. She could only stare blankly. In the end, Lu Shan was so angry that she nearly vomited blood. It was because his son had failed to live up to his expectations and kept staring at Yunjian as if he was completely infatuated with her. So you're studying at Min City's military academy? I'm studying in 3rd high school. You're welcome to hang out with me. Ning Shang stared straight at Yun Jian as he invited her. Ning Shang had snuck out of school to go on a date with his girlfriend. However, ever since he saw Yun Jian, his heart had been hooked by Yun Jian. He even chased her all the way here and shamelessly sat down at her table. Yun Jian ignored him. At this moment, a woman at the same table pointed at the door and exclaimed, "Wow, what a handsome young man!" Just as the woman finished, Yun Jian turned to look and met a pair of sharp dark eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. The man made his way over after meeting Yun Jian's gaze. Every movement he made as he made his way over was so cool that it was enough to make all the women in the room squeal in delight. "Whose family is this young man from? He's so handsome," another woman exclaimed. Chapter 1392. He was the only one who could accompany her, no matter where it was. Ce stared fixedly at Yun Jian as if he wanted to bore a hole through Yun Jian. Yun Jian was a little embarrassed by Ce's words. Besides, there were so many people around. She lowered her head out of shyness when Ce grabbed her hand. Qin Yiru, who was sitting beside Yun Jian, covered her mouth and laughed silently. Qin Yiru was about to speak when Ning Shang, who was sitting opposite Yun Jian and had been staring at Yun Jian, looked at Ce in disbelief. Then he asked Yun Jian, "Who is he?" It was as if they were denouncing Yun Jian for her crimes. Yun Jian heard Ning Shang's words and reached out to grab Ce's large hand. Then she replied softly, "Mm." She considered that Ce was too busy, so she didn't ask Ce to accompany her to the Amazon forest. She also asked Mad Dragon to go with her because Mad Dragon was also an assassin from Anhun. There were 3 assassins who had survived with Yun Jian from Anhun. Besides Yun Jian, Mad Dragon was one of them. Mad Dragon was also there when she was sent to the organization, so Mad Dragon knew Mu Ying. Yun Jian knew that Mad Dragon and Mu Ying had some feelings for each other when they were young. Although they were not even 10 years old at that time, Mad Dragon and Mu Ying liked each other. When Mu Ying died in place of Yun Jian, Mad Dragon was tricked out by a group of children in the organization. That was why Mad Dragon only found out about Mu Ying's death. At that time, Quang Long was on the brink of insanity. The only thing Yun Jian knew after that was that Quang Long killed all the people who tricked him out. Yun Jian asked Mad Dragon to wait for them in the Amazon forest because she wanted Mu Ying and Mad Dragon to meet. She didn't know that Ce would be so jealous that he sent Mad Dragon away. What Amazon forest? Speaking of which, Yiru, why is your daughter being intimate with an outsider in front of you? You have to keep a close eye on such an outstanding daughter. Don't let some riffraff kidnap her. Lu Shan had spoken with the intention of competing with Yun Jian, but now that she saw how outstanding Yun Jian was and that her son, Ning Shang, was interested in Yun Jian, Lu Shan wanted her son to marry such an outstanding daughter. She might be jealous, but she would be part of her family once they married her. Lu Shan was shameless. She had treated Yun Jian this way in the beginning, but when she saw that Yun Jian was good-looking, capable, and had a brother who studied in D High School, Lu Shan thought to herself. That was how Lu Shan thought of it. She should take a look at how her son looked like. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would rein in Yun Jian and the man's entanglement, but Qin Yiru ignored her and stood up to speak to Ce. "Ae, you're back? Come, sit beside Xiao Jian. I'll find another seat." As she spoke, Qin Yiru moved away from the seat beside Yun Jian and found another seat to sit down. It was only after she was seated that Qin Yiru replied, "Huh? Entangling with an outsider? Since when did my Xiao Jian entangle with an outsider?" As she spoke, Qin Yiru really did not know what Lu Shan was referring to as she looked around. Qin Yiru was not pretending. She really did not know. Lu Shan's face darkened when she heard what Lu Shan said. "There, aren't they entangling with an outsider?" Lu Shan pointed at Ce and Yun Jian exasperatedly. It was then that Qin Yiru realized that Lu Shan was referring to Ce. Chapter 1393. In Qin Yiru's heart, she had long treated Ce as family. To Qin Yiru, Ce was family. Therefore, Qin Yiru did not react when Lu Shan said that Yun Jian was messing around with an outsider. When she heard Qin Yiru say that Ce was her chosen son-in-law and that Ce was family, Lu Shan nearly vomited blood in anger. Lu Shan thought that Qin Yiru would realize that her daughter was messing around with a man after what she said just now. Who knew that she would say, "Yiru, are you serious? Your daughter is still so young and she already has a chosen son-in-law? Wenmin asked in disbelief, taking a few more glances at Ce. Ce was handsome. His fair complexion coupled with his murderous eyes made it impossible for anyone to ignore his presence. That was all it took to describe his handsomeness. Wenmin asked out of pure curiosity. Since she had asked this, Wenmin couldn't help but ask another question. Of course, her tone was still mixed with the weight of a joke. Haha, don't tell me that you've arranged a marriage for your daughter? Wenmin's words sparked a conversation between everyone and Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru chuckled with a hand over her mouth and replied to Wenmin, "Of course not. I advocate for children to love freely. Look, my Xiao Jian and Ai are interested in each other. I can't stop them from being together, can I? Ai's a rare good kid." Qin Yiru was not an extremely old-fashioned person. To her, it was fine as long as Yun Jian was happy. Lu Shan was about to vomit blood when she heard what Qin Yiru said at the end. Lu Shan had never expected Qin Yiru to be so optimistic about her daughter's relationship. She was still thinking of having her son abduct such an outstanding daughter from Qin Yiru's family. Ce had already taken the seat that Qin Yiru vacated for him. When he turned to look, he could already tell what Lu Shan, the old hag, was up to. Since he came in, he could feel Ning Shang's gaze sizing up his Xiao Jian as if his life depended on it. Ce did not let go of Yun Jian's hand even after he took his seat. His other hand reached into his trouser pocket to take out a large booklet and placed it on the round table before spinning the turntable to move it to Qin Yiru. "This is my marriage certificate with Xiao Jian. It's registered in country. We're real." He and Xiao Jian were real now, they were real, so he did not mind letting more people know about it. Ce said as he turned the booklet to Qin Yiru. No one expected Ce to do this, so everyone stopped what they were doing when they heard Ce's mellow voice. This is... Lu Shan was stunned. She thought that Ce and Yun Jian were just a couple and did not expect Ce to take out his marriage certificate. Aren't you still underage? Lu Shan did not even realize that there was a marriage certificate in country R. She only knew that Yun Jian and Ce were married. "It's a marriage certificate in country R. Xiao Jian and I are husband and wife now, so we're protected by the law," Ce cut Lu Shan off, speaking to Qin Yiru. Everyone thought that Qin Yiru would scold Yun Jian and Ce. After all, it was one thing to admit that Yun Jian and Ce were together, but it was another thing to register their marriage as it was protected by the law. Who would have thought that Qin Yiru would clap her hands excitedly? She opened her mouth openly and shamelessly under everyone's gaze, saying, "Great! We've even registered our marriage. Ai, you're amazing. It'll be legal and reasonable for Xiao Jian to give birth to a grandson or granddaughter soon." Chapter 1394. Qin Yiru accidentally blurted out her true thoughts. Once Qin Yiru said it, Yun Jian's cheeks flushed instantly. Lu Shan's face darkened at the same time. Ning Shang froze on the spot, looking at Yun Jian and Ce in disbelief. She was married? She was married. Did that mean he had no chance? Ning Shang did not even think about what kind of person he was and whether he was worthy of Yun Jian. Most importantly, Ning Shang had a girlfriend of his own. His girlfriend must have left in a fit of anger at him for standing her up. While everyone was stunned, Ce raised a brow with a slight smirk and uttered words that made everyone's imagination run wild in the next second. "I'll work hard." It was a continuation of what Qin Yiru said earlier. Once he heard Ce's half-understood words, Ning Sheng's face darkened as if he had just eaten dog poop. Lu Shan's face darkened as well. Jian, we're here." Just as Yun Jian's head was about to hit the floor in embarrassment, 3 people walked into the restaurant. The person who led the way to greet Yun Jian was Chen Sinny. Chen Sinny shook her head at Yun Jian and ran over to grab Yun Jian's other free hand, telling her, "Yun Jian, I'm not going anywhere." Jian, you're back? When you said you were here just now, I dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over to look for you. They even said they wanted ice cream before coming over. Heh! I directly threw away the ice cream in their hands. Don't you think I'm amazing? Chen Sinny knew that Yun Jian was coming back today, so she asked Yun Jian where she was on the phone just now. When she found out that Yun Jian was at the restaurant, Chen Sinny happened to be nearby, so she dragged Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen over. After graduating from junior high school, everyone was admitted to different high schools. Chen Xini and her friends were still studying in Longmen City, but Yun Jian had gone to Min City. Chen Xini and her friends had just finished their military training, so they were on break now that it was school time. Yun Jian snapped out of her shyness and looked up to meet Chen Xini's gaze that said, "Praise me, praise me." "You're tanned," Yun Jian commented quietly as she glanced at Chen Xini and her friends. "Oh, it's Xini. Are you guys playing around here too? It's been a while since I saw you. Come visit me when you're free." Qin Yiru greeted Chen Xini when she saw her. In spite of it, Chen Xini and her friends were rooted to the spot by Yun Jian's casual remark. "Aya Jian Jian, don't be so direct." Chen Xini covered her face in disbelief. The group of people around them were attracted by Yun Jian and Chen Xini's interaction. Lu Shan and Ning Sheng looked over as well. "All right, Jian Jian, I heard that there are 3 people from your military school who entered the elite class directly. You're one of them. Hey, what's the benefit of entering the elite class?" Chen Xini and her friends paid close attention to anything that happened in the military school because Yun Jian had gone to the military school. The news of Yun Jian successfully passing the military training's wilderness survival event and entering the elite class had spread like wildfire. It was not surprising that Chen Xini and her friends knew about it. Yun Jian raised a brow and turned to see Zhang Xiaofeng and Ling Yichen looking at her with anticipation. She smiled and said, "Entering the elite class means there's a chance to join the hunting school as Country Z's special forces." Yun Jian then narrowed her eyes and added, "I have to go to the hunting school." "Hunting school? What the hell is that place?" Lu Shan asked with a sullen face after hearing that. It was the kind of careless words. Just as Lu Shan finished her question, the people around them turned to look at Yun Jian in confusion. Hunting school? Hunting? A school to catch wild animals? Why was there such a school? What kind of school was this? Why did Yun Jian have to go? To learn how to catch wild animals? Everyone present was slightly stunned. "Master, is the hunting school you're talking about located in South America? Is it the world-famous Special Forces training base? It said that the elimination rate is as high as 80% and the death rate is extremely high. It's known as the true Special Forces Devil Training. Master, are you talking about that school?" Zhang Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment before asking Yun Jian. Just as Zhang Xiaofeng finished his question, everyone present was stunned. Most of the people present were dutiful residents. They often talked about their children's academic results, who had a higher salary, or who married into a good family. They thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was just an ordinary school. However, no one would have thought that the hunting school Yun Jian mentioned was actually the Special Forces training base? And the death rate was extremely high. Just as they were shocked, they heard Yun Jian admit, "Yeah." This meant that the hunting school Yun Jian had to go to was the Special Forces training base with an extremely high death rate? Everyone present was dumbfounded. Lu Shan and Ning Sheng originally thought that Yun Jian applied for the military school to become a policewoman. However, no one would have thought that Yun Jian she actually wanted to go to such a dangerous place to train. Chapter 1395. Special Forces Training Base? The elimination rate is as high as 80%? The death rate is extremely high? You'll die? Are you kidding me? You're going to a place like that? You're a girl. Lu Shan could not help exclaiming again when she heard what Zhang Xiaofeng and Yun Jian said. You're going to a place like that? What if you die? What if you die? Ning Sheng couldn't help but cry out in alarm. When he mentioned death, Ning Sheng's body trembled. He was obviously frightened. "Xiao Jian, you're going to a place like that? Will you really die? It's such a dangerous place. Mom won't let you go." The people around them exclaimed, but they calmed down quickly. Qin Yiru was different. Yun Jian was her daughter. Therefore, when Qin Yiru heard Yun Jian say that she was going to such a dangerous place, she stood up from the bench right away. "Die. I'd really like to meet the person who can kill me in this world." Yun Jian chuckled softly. Her words were quite arrogant, and there was a sense of arrogance in them. In spite of it, others thought that Yun Jian was extremely foolish. Lu Shan laughed out loud. She could not hold it in as she laughed out loud when she heard Yun Jian's arrogant words. After that, Lu Shan's lips twitched before she forced herself to hold back her laughter. Forgetting herself, she told Yun Jian again. "Do you think you're a god? Do you really think you're in heaven? Ha ha ha, you'd really like to meet the person who can kill you in this world. You're kidding me. Qin Yiru was already worried about her daughter. Now that she heard what Lu Shan said, she was even more worried. Xiao Jian, you can't go. How can there be a guarantee? Qin Yiru was genuinely worried and scared. The proudest thing in her life was having a daughter and a son. Both of them were equally important. Therefore, to Qin Yiru, nothing was more important than the safety of her daughter and son. Mom, I've never done anything stupid that would cost my life, and I've never boasted about myself. Yun Jian said to Qin Yiru solemnly, the existence that can threaten me has not been born yet. With me here, Xiao Jian will be fine no matter where she goes. Siyi's words rang out just as Yun Jian was explaining to Qin Yiru. Qin Yiru was stunned. Just as she was about to refute Siyi, she heard Siyi continue. It's just a hunting school. I guarantee that if Xiao Jian really loses a strand of hair in the school, I'll blow it up. Moreover, if anything happens to Xiao Jian, I'll be there to shield her. Even if someone dies, I'll be the first to die. Siyi told Qin Yiru with a serious look at Yun Jian. What he said was from the bottom of his heart, and everyone present could hear it. Siyi's words touched Qin Yiru. She was right to find this son-in-law. Lu Shan, on the other hand, was displeased. After she heard what Siyi said, she retorted at Siyi. Pfft, blow it up. Do you think you're an armed force? Playing with gunpowder? Ha! Before Lu Shan could finish, Siyi had already dialed Xueying's number and spoke to the latter right in front of everyone. I'm sorry. Find the shortest and fattest lady who works in the same shop as my mother-in-law in Country Z. Send a fighter jet to bomb her. Everyone was dumbfounded when Siyi finished. What? Chapter 1396. Lu Shan thought that Siyi was just joking. She did not expect that Siyi was telling the truth. And Siyi said it so openly. She was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop? Women love to be beautiful, regardless of their age. Lu Shan was the same. Therefore, when she heard Siyi say that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop, Lu Shan was stunned. When Lu Shan came back to her senses, the first thing that came to her mind was not that Siyi wanted to bomb her house, but Siyi actually said that she was the shortest and fattest woman in the shop. Lu Shan was stunned. She was so shocked that she couldn't even speak. The rest of them were the first to react to what Siyi said. Young man, don't tell me you're serious? One Min was shocked because Siyi did not seem to be lying when he spoke. Child, don't mess around. Qin Yiru had heard about Siyi's family background from Dongguan and knew that Siyi came from an extraordinary family. Therefore, Qin Yiru knew that Siyi was telling the truth. When Lu Shan recovered from her anger, she still did not believe Siyi. She even lectured Qin Yiru. Oh Yiru, is this the kind of son-in-law you want? Bombing with fighter jets? Ha ha ha, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't know anything? As Lu Shan spoke, Siyi's phone rang again. In spite of it, Siyi pressed the answer button. Snow Eagle's voice came from the other end. Young master, the fighter jets haven't arrived yet. I've locked onto the target floor with missiles. Should we bomb it across the sea? An Hun group's influence was comparable to a country. This wasn't nonsense. As soon as he said that, everyone present was dumbfounded. The other party actually called Siyi, young master? It felt like it was real. No, this is real. Lu Shan was completely stunned. She stared blankly at Siyi, feeling as though she was in a complete daze. Don't. Qin Yiru cried out in alarm. In the past, they could still use their own power to cover up small conflicts. However, if Siyi really ordered the Snow Eagle to launch a missile attack on Lu Shan's family, this was no laughing matter. It involved the country. Lu Shan was really frightened. She looked at Siyi in a daze. She was really afraid that Siyi was telling the truth. The next second, Lu Shan opened her mouth and begged for mercy. Don't. I was wrong. My mouth is cheap. Regardless of whether it was true or not, Lu Shan couldn't bear the blow of this possibility. There's no need to launch the missiles. Let's retreat, Yun Jian said to Xueqi, who was on the other end of Siyi's phone. Yes. Xueqi agreed to Yun Jian faster than he agreed to Siyi. As soon as he finished, he hung up on Ce. How dare Xueqi hang up on Ce when the young mistress had spoken? In the past, Xueqi would not have dared to do this even if he was given 100 guts. Lu Shan did not know why, but when she heard the word retreat, she felt like she had escaped death even though she did not believe that Ce would launch a missile attack on her house. Lu Shan sat in her seat and heaved a sigh of relief. Ce had never objected to Yunjian's decisions, so the matter passed just like that. When Chen Sini and the others arrived, Yunjian told Qin Yiru that she wanted to go shopping with Chen Sini and the others after a few bites. Ce followed Yunjian and even held Yunjian's small hand with his large palm. Chapter 1397. Ce had left what he was doing and ran back to Longmen City. The reason was simple. Yunjian had asked Mad Dragon instead of him to go to the Amazon forest. Ce had gone to the Kosha mercenaries to reprimand Mad Dragon before coming here to look for Yunjian to declare his sovereignty. Yunjian had to wait for Mu Ying here before heading to the Amazon forest. She had to make stops along the way with Mu Ying. Ce was currently at his busiest and could not spare any time, so he returned to An Hun Group after coming to look for Yunjian before heading to the Amazon forest to meet Yunjian. Ce had even brought his and Yunjian's booklet with him after he left. Country R's marriage certificate was a huge booklet, different from the small booklet in Country Z. However, Ce brought it with him at all times. Yunjian face-bombed. Ce had been itching to let everyone in the world know that they were married recently. He would even show off their marriage certificate in Country R from time to time. He was so happy that he did not feel tired at all. If Adam heard about this, he would probably grumble on the spot. How did you become such a young master? Ce left in a private helicopter that day while Yunjian waited for Mu Ying in Longmen City the next day. However, Mu Ying had Lang Hanja following behind her. Lang Hanja insisted on coming after Mu Ying. There was no way to shake him off. Yunjian was not too surprised to see Lang Hanja. Not only did Lang Hanja come alone, he brought a friend with him. Lang Hanja did not expect his friend to bring a few friends along as well. As they went back and forth, they seemed to have formed a team. Yunjian was not too happy about it. She was already annoyed that Lang Hanja had tagged along and now he had brought a friend with him. His friend had brought a group of people as well. This is my friend, Guo. He also graduated from our military academy. He was our senior last year. He is now studying at the police academy. He will be a police officer in the future. Lang Hanja introduced Guo to everyone. Yunjian blinked, uninterested. Mu Ying crossed her arms in front of her chest, looking equally upset. Go back. Don't follow me and Yunjian anymore. After Lang Hanja introduced everyone on his side to Yunjian and Mu Ying said to him coldly. It was obvious that Mu Ying did not want Lang Hanja to tag along as well. What's wrong with you? Brother Hanja deliberately followed you to protect you. It's been so many years. It's no secret that Brother Hanja likes you. But what about you? Why are you? Before she could finish, Lang Hanja interrupted. Lang Lingling, if you don't want to come with us, then go back yourself. Lang Hanja said coldly. When the girl called Lang Lingling heard Lang Hanja's words, she snorted angrily and purposely raised her voice. Lang Lingling was Lang Hanja's younger sister. She tagged along because she liked Lang Hanja's friend, Guo. All of you shut up. Yunjian suddenly scolded just as the group was talking noisily. Everyone stopped what they were doing and talking when they heard Yunjian scolding. However, Yunjian continued with a tone that made it impossible for anyone to underestimate her. It's your business whether or not you want to follow us and go to the Amazon forest. However, if anything happens to any of you, I'll only remind you that Mu Ying and I will only watch from the sidelines. So do as you please. Chapter 1398. Yunjian made it clear. She would not stop them if they wanted to tag along. She did not have the right to stop them. After all, they were her legs. However, Yunjian was not responsible for their safety. They had never experienced how dangerous the Amazon forest was. However, Yunjian, who had survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months in her previous life, knew that it was not a place for humans. Even Yunjian barely survived in the Amazon forest. It did not matter if it was the wild animals or the swamp that they encountered during their military training on the uninhabited island. The Amazon forest could not be compared to the small waves on the uninhabited island. What do you mean by that? F***CK. Don't make it sound like the earth would stop spinning without you, alright? Seriously. There are more and more people who think highly of themselves. They don't even know what they're thinking. Lang Lingling was taken aback by Yun Jian's reprimand. She was stunned for a moment before she spoke up after recovering from the shock. After saying that, Lang Lingling turned her head to look at Guo Xiao, whom she admired. Brother Xiao, am I right? Before Lang Lingling could hear Guo Xiao's reply, Lang Hanja yelled at Lang Lingling again, Lang Lingling, if you continue to mess around, you can go home right now. This was the second time Lang Hanja, as Lang Lingling's brother, had spoken to her in such a loud tone. Lang Lingling was furious. Let's go. Yun Jian ignored Lang Lingling. She spoke to Mu Ying and left first. Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and the rest followed Yun Jian and Mu Ying from the car to the plane to Country G. In other words, Lang Hanja and Lang Lingling did not know the way and followed Yun Jian. The Amazon forest was also known as the Amazon rainforest. It was located in the Amazon basin in South America. The rainforest spanned across 8 countries and took up 20% of the world's forest area. It was the largest rainforest in the world with the most species. Yun Jian would usually depart from Country G when she went to the Amazon forest, because Country G had helicopters that could directly reach the entrance of the Amazon forest. The other 8 countries were all around the Amazon forest, but Yun Jian was more used to setting off from Country G. Lang Hanja and the others followed them all the way until they arrived at the place where they took the helicopter to the Amazon forest in Country G. Public security in Country G was generally good, but there was no lack of places with poor public security. The helicopter that goes directly to the Amazon forest is rented from the local people, and the number of helicopters here is relatively small, so usually there is a queue for a helicopter. At this moment, Yun Jian and Mu Ying were waiting in line, followed by Lang Hanja and a group of people. It's so hot. It's almost our turn. Is the plane here yet? Lang Lingling fanned her face and asked lazily. Bear with it. It's coming, it's coming. They're finally here. A guy in the same group responded. They saw a helicopter being pulled over by a large truck from afar. Hey, you guys wait for 2 more hours. The pilot of this helicopter got into an argument with armed people and was shot twice. He's been sent to the hospital, and the next helicopter will arrive in 2 more hours. Just then, a staff member walked over and waved at Yun Jian and the others, speaking in Chinese. The staff member was from Country Z. Huh? 2 more hours? Lang Lingling was dumbfounded when she heard that. Is this helicopter empty? No one's piloting it? Yun Jian asked. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the staff member paused for a moment, then smiled naturally. Yes. Then, the staff member joked with Yun Jian. Little girl, do you want to drive the helicopter to the Amazon forest yourself? Heh. It was impossible. The staff member didn't finish his sentence. Give me the helicopter. I'll rent it. Yun Jian took out a card from her pocket and threw it to the staff member, then walked towards the helicopter. What's wrong with you? The pilot isn't here and you still want to rent the helicopter. Do you even know how to drive it? Lang Lingling, who was standing behind, couldn't help but scold Yun Jian. Hey, little girl. You can't just drive the helicopter if you don't know how to drive it. Also, do you know the coordinates of the Amazon forest? The staff member reacted and wanted to chase after Yun Jian, who had already walked to the helicopter. However, he saw Yun Jian walk to the side of the helicopter and jump onto the helicopter door. Under the gaze of the surrounding people, she walked to the cockpit and started the helicopter within 3 seconds. The helicopter instantly flapped its wings and floated up, making a loud noise. Yun Jian walked to the helicopter door under everyone's horrified gaze and put down the rope. She called out to Mu Ying. Come up. She really knew how to drive a helicopter. This teenage girl really knew how to drive a helicopter. Chapter 1399. Mu Ying went over and grabbed the rope that Yun Jian had let down from the helicopter in a few steps. Grabbing the rope nimbly, she climbed up to the side door of the helicopter from the ground. No matter how much the staff tried to dissuade and disbelieve that Yun Jian knew how to fly a helicopter, Yun Jian's actions just now and the fact that she actually knew how to fly a helicopter had completely shocked the staff. After Mu Ying jumped onto the helicopter with the rope, she stood at the side door of the helicopter and looked down at Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, Guo and the others. In the end, Mu Ying locked her gaze on Lang Hanja. The helicopter was already 3 meters above the ground. Unless Yun Jian or Mu Ying let down the rope and Lang Hanja and the others could climb onto the helicopter, Lang Hanja and the others could only get onto the helicopter. However, when the helicopter was 3 meters above the ground, it was obvious that Yun Jian did not intend to travel with Lang Hanja and the others. Hey! All right, we know that you can fly a helicopter. Why aren't you lowering the helicopter? Quick, quick, quick. It's so hot that I'm about to peel off my skin. It's so hot. Hurry up and let us sit on it. Lang Lingling was stunned, but she did not think too much about it. Instead, she waved at Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian to lower the helicopter so that they could sit on it. Let's part ways here. Yun Jian gave a simple reply. Yun Jian did not say anything else. Lang Lingling was taken aback by Yun Jian's words before she broke out in a torrent of abuse. Lang Lingling began to yell at Yun Jian. Mu Ying stared at Lang Hanja. She pursed her lips and said, I'm no longer the same person as before. I'm no longer the Mu Ying of the past. I've told you this more than once. Now, I'm telling you the same thing. Don't come to me again. We're not from the same world. Mu Ying had told Lang Hanja more than once that they were not from the same world. She told him not to come looking for her anymore. However, every time she said that, Lang Hanja would. How are we not from the same world? Ying, there's nothing in this world that can stop us from being together. I won't give up. I won't give up. Lang Hanja was still yelling at the sky, refusing to admit defeat, even when Yun Jian flew the helicopter dozens of meters away. Mu Ying had rejected Lang Hanja's feelings for her more than once. She knew that Lang Hanja had feelings for her, but she was not the real Mu Ying. She could not merge herself with the real Mu Ying like Yun Jian. However, no matter what Mu Ying did, she could not get rid of Lang Hanja. This made Mu Ying feel guilty. Yun Jian and Mu Ying arrived at the border of the Amazon forest. The helicopter could enter the Amazon forest, but it was rented. Yun Jian did not plan to fly the helicopter directly into the Amazon forest. The helicopter stopped at the entrance. It was surrounded by the forest. The reason why it was called the entrance was because there were people stationed here. The staff who were in charge of the helicopter's navigation were also here. If they registered at the scenic spot, they could even have a tour guide to bring them around the Amazon forest. Of course, the tour guide would only bring them to a safe area. It was impossible for them to go deep into the Amazon forest. When Yun Jian returned the helicopter to the staff was shocked. Why was their helicopter driven by a young lady? By the time they reacted, Yun Jian was already far away. Yun Jian had just walked to Mu Ying and was about to pack her things with Mu Ying to enter the Amazon forest when a clear male voice came from behind. The male voice stopped Yun Jian and Mu Ying in time. Chapter 1400. We're not going with a group. Yun Jian immediately denied the guy's words. She didn't even look at the guy's face before she spoke. Hearing Yun Jian's simple words, the guy was stunned, but he didn't give up. Instead, he walked to Yun Jian and Mu Ying. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying. The guy spoke again as if he was trying to persuade Yun Jian and Mu Ying to agree with him. It's not good for the two of you to enter the Amazon forest by yourselves. The Amazon forest isn't an ordinary forest. There are ferocious beasts inside. You might get into trouble if you go by yourselves. I heard that a group of people went in 2 days ago and they haven't come out yet. It's dangerous for the two of you to enter the Amazon forest without a group. Why don't you come with us? You can take care of each other. Also, we're all from country Z. Hee, it's rare to meet people from the same country here. The guy said a lot of things, but all he got was Yun Jian's rejection. I'm not going. Ren Zhongwei, can you do it? You can't even persuade 2 girls. You don't even have that bit of charm. What are you doing? Another guy's voice came from the side. The other guy said as he walked towards Yun Jian and Mu Ying. Ladies, I'm Dan Chengjie. We're planning to enter the Amazon forest as a group. Ren Zhongwei told you guys just now that we're short of 3 people. There are 6 of our country Z compatriots in the group. Do you guys want to come along? The guy who called himself Dan Chengjie was a handsome young guy. He was about 19 years old and looked very bright and handsome. It was not hard to tell that Dan Chengjie and his group were university students who came to the Amazon forest to play. Also, one could tell that Dan Chengjie and his group were wearing branded clothes from head to toe. Even the watches on their hands were worth more than 5,000. 5,000 was considered extremely expensive in terms of the price of watches in 1999. Just by looking at Dan Chengjie's group, it was not hard to tell that they were all university students. Usually, if a university student could come to a place like the Amazon forest to play, they would need to have a rich family to do so. But these were not in Yun Jian's consideration. After Dan Chengjie told Ren Zhongwei that Yun Jian and Mu Ying were going to the Amazon alone and that it was quite dangerous, Yun Jian started to pack her bag. She ignored Dan Chengjie and took out a butterfly knife, 2 daggers, and many blades from her bag. After making sure that these things could be used normally, she put them in her bag. Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie were just talking about Yun Jian and Mu Ying going into the Amazon forest by themselves. It was very dangerous for the 2 girls, so they advised them to team up with them. However, when they saw Yun Jian take out a few knives from her bag, Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie both took a deep breath and swallowed their saliva. You're a girl. How can you bring so many dangerous things? Dan Chengjie was stunned. At that moment, Yun Jian had picked up her bag again and asked Mu Ying to follow her to the entrance of the Amazon forest. She completely ignored Dan Chengjie and Ren Zhongwei's reaction. Yun Jian and Mu Ying were just about to walk to the entrance of the Amazon forest when Yun Jian suddenly saw the tour guide's introduction in Country G's language. Yun Jian frowned slightly when she saw the introduction of the tour group. She suddenly pulled Mu Ying and turned around to say to Dan Chengjie and Ren Zhongwei, "We'll join your group." Chapter 14:01. After Yun Jian finished speaking, Dan Chengjie and Ren Zhongwei both looked up at her and said in unison, "Really? You guys are really willing to join us?" Yun Jian's previous attitude was really too cold, so it gave Dan Chengjie and Ren Zhongwei an inexplicable illusion that Yun Jian would not join them. So when they heard Yun Jian's words, Dan Chengjie and Ren Zhongwei felt like they had misheard. "Lead the way." At this moment, Yun Jian nodded and said. Mu Ying did not understand why Yun Jian wanted to follow the tour group halfway. After all, following a tour group was very time-consuming and inconvenient for them. But Mu Ying did not ask Yun Jian. Just as they joined Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie's group, Yun Jian and Mu Ying saw the other 4 people from Z country other than Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie. Among the 4 people from Z country, 3 of them came with Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie. As for the other more mature woman, she came alone. She also just joined the tour group and met Dan Chengjie and the others. When this more mature woman saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying, she greeted Yun Jian and Mu Ying first. "More friends here? Hey, I'm He Liqing. You can call me Sister Qingqing. Don't be shy." The mature woman who called herself He Liqing was obviously a beautiful and gentle big sister, but there was also the air of a mature sister in her gentleness. At least Yun Jian had a good impression of this woman called He Liqing. "I'm Mu Ying." Mu Ying replied briefly to He Liqing. "Yun Jian." Yun Jian's self-introduction was even more brief. "Welcome to the group, little girls." An 18 or 19-year-old college girl who was with Dan Chengjie and the others greeted Yun Jian and Mu Ying. This girl had heavy makeup on and looked very beautiful. When she greeted Yun Jian and Mu Ying, she did not show any signs of unwelcome. But if you asked her how much she welcomed Yun Jian and Mu Ying, she did not show any extreme reaction. It could be seen that she welcomed them on the surface, but in her heart, she did not feel like they were dispensable. This girl was called Lu Yun. In the group of Z country people, other than He Liqing and Lu Yun who were girls, Yun Jian and Mu Ying with the rest of them were guys. In the end, the numbers were gathered quickly and the group prepared to leave. Yun Jian asked Ce to bring Mad Dragon, and she and Mu Ying would catch up in about a day. Ce had already sent Mad Dragon home, but Yun Jian asked Ce to bring Mad Dragon. Since Ce listened to Yun Jian, no matter how jealous she had to satisfy her first. Just as they entered the Amazon forest, the surrounding scenery was like a fairy tale. It was extremely beautiful. In the group, there were a few people who came with cameras, so they took pictures along the way and walked rather slowly. "Wow! There's a river here, and the water is so big, so wide and so clear." At this moment, a foreigner exclaimed in English. There were fish swimming in the river, so a few foreigners had already rolled up their sleeves excitedly, took off their shoes, and entered the water to catch fish. Let's go and have some fun too. Lu Yun was very excited as she took off her shoes and ran into the river. She stepped on the shallow sand in the river and made a yay expression to one of the guys who brought a camera. The river was very wide and the current was relatively fast. Lu Yun stood in the river and made a pose for the guy with the camera to take pictures of her. With this careless step, Lu Yun's foot was suddenly scratched by a stone. Just as she was about to raise her foot to see what was going on, she heard Yun Jian's voice from afar. There are piranhas in this river. You have to go ashore immediately. Yun Jian's words made Lu Yun frown, but Lu Yun was the kind of girl who would not show her displeasure on the surface. To put it bluntly, she cared a lot about her image. Even if she really did not like someone, Lu Yun would not show it on her face. Instead, she would treat people coldly. Yun Jian spoke in English, so everyone present heard it clearly. Where are the piranhas? I still want to take pictures. Lu Yun frowned, and her voice became cold. However, she did not say anything to Yun Jian that showed her displeasure. A few of the foreigners around heard Yun Jian's words and went ashore. Although Lu Yun did not talk back to Yun Jian loudly, she was very indifferent to Yun Jian. When the foreigners heard Yun Jian's words just now, they were also skeptical. Because even the tour guide said that piranhas should not appear in this place, but they did not rule out the possibility. However, at this moment, Lu Yun suddenly screamed, "Ah!" In the next second, everyone saw a fish that was about 30 centimeters long open its mouth and use its sharp teeth to grab Lu Yun's leg. It was like a surgeon's scalpel crazily biting and cutting. After biting the flesh on Lu Yun's leg, it did not let go. With its body twisting, it actually bit off a piece of flesh on Lu Yun's leg in front of everyone. Chapter 1402. Any smell of blood will trigger a large group of piranhas to attack violently. You still have 3 seconds to go ashore. After 3 seconds, even the gods won't be able to save you. Yun Jian said calmly as she looked at Lu Yun's leg that was bitten off by the piranhas. Piranhas usually attacked in groups. There was once a child who accidentally fell into a pond where piranhas were rearing. Within a few minutes, he was not alive and turned into a horrifying skeleton. This was not nonsense. It was an ironclad fact. Ah, no. Lu Yun, who was bitten on her leg, was so scared that she didn't even care about the pain on her leg. She immediately jumped ashore. This piranha that bit her leg didn't want to let go. In the end, Lu Yun desperately shook her leg a few times before it let go. Lu Yun herself didn't see it. The second after she jumped ashore, everyone on the shore saw the piranhas behind her as if they were injected with chicken blood. They rushed towards her without any regard for their lives. Some of them even bit Lu Yun's skirt. They directly bit Lu Yun's skirt. Ah! Will they come ashore? Someone was so scared that he screamed and wanted to run away. Ah! It hurts. Lu Yun also sat on the ground and couldn't move. Waves of pain came from her leg. A piece of the flesh on her leg that was bitten by the piranhas had already fallen off. Just looking at it was terrifying, let alone actually experiencing it. Am I going to die? Lu Yun hugged her legs and started wailing. Everyone shut up. Just as the people on the scene were extremely noisy, each and every one of them was scared out of their wits. Some of them even wanted to go back the way they came and didn't want to continue this trip. Yun Jian yelled at everyone to stop. Even Lu Yun was trying her best to endure the pain. She was so scared that she quieted down. Just now, it was Yun Jian who said that there were piranhas in the river. Moreover, Yun Jian said that, but the group of people around didn't believe her. Yun Jian, how did you know that there's food in the river, piranhas? Dan Chengjie was so scared that he started to stutter. Yun Jian did not answer Dan Chengjie's question directly. She glanced at everyone around them and spoke in English that everyone present could understand coldly. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. If you want to survive in the Amazon forest, remember 3 things. Don't touch anything, don't run around, and don't move around. If you can't even do these 3 things, then I can tell you very clearly that you only have 2 choices now. Leave this place or die. Yun Jian's gaze was as sharp as a knife. Every word that came out of her mouth was shocking. Even the tour guide who was leading the way was intimidated by Yun Jian's icy demeanor. Didn't you say that with someone guiding you, it's very safe to play in the Amazon forest? A burly man stepped forward and asked. This burly man was a foreigner, and he spoke in English. Heh! Yunjian suddenly chuckled. In the next second, her gaze turned sharp and she reached into her bag. She didn't even look and accurately took out a knife from her bag. With a fling of her arm, the blade in her hand was flung at the bulky man. Ah, you! The burly man was shocked. However, before the burly man could react, the knife in Yunjian's hand had already flown past him. That's... Just then, someone suddenly realized that behind the burly man, a cobra was nailed to a tree by Yunjian's knife. This person was so scared that he screamed. Everyone turned around and saw this scene. This meant that the cobra was hanging behind the burly man. If it wasn't for Yunjian's timely action, then this burly man would have. While everyone was shocked by Yunjian's skills, they couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. However, they heard Yunjian laugh coldly at the burly man. You can't even protect yourself, who else can you rely on? As she spoke, Yunjian stood in front of everyone. She suddenly took out a bunch of knives from her bag and threw them on the ground. Then, she announced to everyone. Chapter 1403. The meaning of Yunjian's words was that she would not team up with trash. The trash she referred to everyone present. In other words, although she had joined this tour group, she would not team up with anyone in the tour group. To put it bluntly, if the people present wanted to live, they had to do it themselves. Otherwise, even if someone died in front of her, she would not do it again. You! How can you be like this? Everyone came in with the tour group. How can you do something like watching someone die? Are you Z people all so uneducated? A blonde foreign woman pointed at Yunjian in fluent English because she was afraid. As soon as the blonde foreign woman's voice fell, Yunjian cast a sidelong glance at her. Her eyes emitted a sharp and eye-catching luster, coupled with the skill Yunjian had just shown in front of everyone. The blonde foreign woman trembled and took a few steps back. Just when the blonde foreign woman was frightened by Yunjian's frightening eyes and took a big step back, Yunjian suddenly took a step forward. She stretched out her white slender hand and grabbed the blonde foreign woman's collar. She actually dragged the blonde foreign woman's figure to the spacious river where the piranhas gathered. The blonde foreign woman was directly suppressed by Yunjian in 3 seconds. As long as Yunjian gently let go, the blonde foreign woman would fall into the river and become a meal for the piranhas. The blonde foreign woman immediately realized that her collar was being pulled by Yunjian. Her body was tilted. As long as Yunjian let go, she would become a meal for the piranhas below. Just now, Lu Yun was bitten by a piranha and a piece of meat was bitten off. Now there are hundreds of piranhas in the river. If Yunjian let go. No. Let me go. The blonde foreign woman was scared. She began to struggle to escape from Yunjian's grasp. However, Yunjian's strength was so great that the blonde foreign woman had no room to break free. For the first time, the blonde foreign woman felt terrified and regretted what she had just said. At this time, Yunjian's soft words reached the blonde foreign woman's ears. At the same time, everyone present was shocked. So you can choose not to listen to me. Don't worry, I'll let you experience what it's like to be uneducated. With that, Yunjian loosened her grip. The blonde foreign woman was suppressed by Yunjian, and the back of her head and back faced the hundreds of piranhas in the river. The blonde foreign woman could not loosen her grip on Yunjian. If Yunjian were to loosen her grip, the blonde foreign woman would end up in the mouths of the thousands of piranhas. This made the blonde foreign woman feel as if her scalp was numb and she was frightened. Yunjian suddenly said this. Before the blonde foreign woman could react, Yunjian had already let go of her hand. The blonde foreign woman immediately fell into the river with her back facing downwards. I don't want to die. At the same time, the blonde foreign woman screamed. She was scared out of her wits and didn't even know how to react. Just when the blonde foreign woman fell 10 centimeters into the river, Yunjian suddenly reached out and grabbed the blonde foreign woman's collar again, preventing her from falling into the river. The piranhas in the river began to leap and jump, wanting to hunt the blonde foreign woman, a huge delicacy. Some of the fish even bit the blonde foreign woman's loose trousers and tore off her trousers and clothes in a few bites. Everyone present was frightened. They couldn't imagine how miserable the blonde foreign woman's fate would be if Yunjian loosened her grip. At this time, Yunjian's faint voice sounded in a trance. She sneered and said to the blonde foreign woman, I can kill people easily. What's the point of not saving a life? As soon as these words came out, coupled with Yun Jian's actions at the moment, the surrounding people were horrified. She really dared. Chapter 1404. Yun Jian's words stimulated the hearts of everyone present, especially Ran Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie, who invited Yun Jian to join their group. Ran Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie both thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary girl, so when Yun Jian and Mu Ying wanted to go to the Amazon forest alone, they came to invite them. That was because Yun Jian and Mu Ying were two girls, and under the circumstances where it was dangerous for them to go alone, the possibility of them joining the group was higher. Later on, Yun Jian and Mu Ying really joined their tour group, which made Ren Zhongwei and Dan Chengjie even more certain that Yun Jian and Mu Ying were just weak girls. But Yun Jian's performance just now was not weak at all. That strange skill, that amazing observation. If it wasn't for Yun Jian, whether it was Lu Yun or the foreign man, they would not be able to escape death. Just when the blonde foreign woman was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian directly pulled her up from the river, and then stretched out her leg to kick the blonde foreign woman away. The blonde foreign woman was already scared out of her wits. After being thrown to the ground by Yun Jian, the foreigners who were with her immediately came forward to help her up. Yun Jian turned around. After she scared the blonde foreign woman, she walked over and picked up the blades that she had spread out on the ground. A piece of flesh on Lu Yun's leg was bitten off by the piranhas. Among the few people in the tour group, there was a medical staff. This medical staff anesthetized Lu Yun's leg, and Lu Yun temporarily did not feel pain. Yun Jian picked up the blades on the ground one by one, and then in front of everyone, hid the blades one by one in every corner of her body. These blades were hidden by Yun Jian in her hair, clothes, and everywhere she hid, the blades completely disappeared without a trace. Yun Jian, on the other hand, was the same as when she first arrived. There was no trace of a hidden weapon on her. Yun Jian simply threw away her bag, and then hid the butterfly knife, 2 daggers, and the blades in the bag to her side. This bag was not given to her by Qin Yiru, so Yun Jian did not feel the slightest bit of reluctance to throw away this bag. Who the hell are you? How can you hide weapons on your body without anyone noticing? Dan Chengjie was very surprised. He saw Yun Jian hide so many weapons on her body. But strangely, after Yun Jian hid so many blades and weapons on her body, it was as if these things were not hidden by her at all, and no one could see any traces of hidden weapons on her body. After being reminded by Dan Chengjie, the surrounding people all realized this point and were a little surprised. Just as Yun Jian was about to hide the last 3 blades on her body, He Liqing suddenly reached out and took the 3 blades from Yun Jian's hands. Then, He Liqing stood up and looked at Yun Jian. With a hint of determination in her eyes, she said, "Yun Jian, I've decided, I'm not going to be a useless person. I'll walk out of the Amazon forest with my own strength. This trip will not be in vain." He Liqing was a very mature woman. From the beginning Yun Jian felt that she was like a big sister. Yun Jian had a good impression of He Liqing. He Liqing's words made Yun Jian squint her eyes. She was obviously satisfied with He Liqing's performance. But with He Liqing taking the lead, the 20 people around them were still indifferent. Walking out of the Amazon forest with her own strength, this sentence was easy to say, but if one really chose to do it, normal people would not have the courage to do so. Not long after He Liqing said this, there was another group of people's voices coming from the entrance of the Amazon forest. Obviously, the people following the group were not only Yun Jian's group. Maybe because Yun Jian's group had delayed for a long time, the people following the group had caught up. In spite of it, both Yun Jian and Mu Ying frowned when they saw who was leading the group of people who had followed the group. The people leading the group were Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and Gua Xiao. Mu Ying did not expect Lang Hanja to really follow her. Yun Jian, on the other hand, raised a brow in disdain. They had actually stalled here for so long. Chapter 1405. When Yun Jian and Mu Ying saw Lang Hanja and the others also saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying. The moment they saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying, Lang Hanja and the others rushed over like crazy. Lang Hanja was afraid that Mu Ying would shake him off again, so he rushed over and shouted at Mu Ying, "Ying Ying." When Lang Lingling saw Yun Jian and Mu Ying, her face darkened. She ran over and scolded Yun Jian and Mu Ying. "You actually abandoned us and ran away just now. How shameless. We came here together, and we took care of you along the way, but what happened to you? You actually thought that you could fly a helicopter and left without waiting for us. How can there be such a shameless person in this world? I'm so angry. Lang Lingling's first sentence was directed at Yun Jian and Mu Ying, and the second sentence was directed at Yun Jian. Lang Lingling was still frustrated. Just as she was about to say something else, Dan Chengjie's terrified voice rang. Dan Chengjie's fearful question was asked while looking at Yun Jian. What's wrong with you? You know how to fly a helicopter? How old are you? You know how to fly a helicopter. Lang Lingling's casual words caused an uproar among Dan Chengjie's group of people. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked and couldn't react for a moment. Yun Jian knew how to fly a helicopter. That wasn't a car. It was a helicopter. A helicopter pilot had to learn for a few years before he could officially operate a helicopter, let alone fly one. I'm a pilot. I accidentally saw this girl from Z country flying a helicopter. At this moment, a clean-looking foreign man with a high nose bridge and brown hair spoke in English. Everyone present could speak English, and their English was not bad. So when the foreign man spoke, everyone turned to look at Yun Jian. However, the foreign man who claimed to be a pilot exclaimed, and his tone was full of admiration for Yun Jian. I've been flying for more than 10 years, and I've seen many old pilots operate a helicopter. Today is the first time I've seen a girl operate a helicopter with such precision. This doesn't seem like something a teenage girl can do. Even my master, Captain Mitterrand, can't fly a helicopter so perfectly like her. She avoided the airflow and operated it smoothly without any turbulence. The foreign man who claimed to be a pilot had already reached the point of admiration for Yun Jian. When the people around them heard the foreign man's words, they were all stunned. Lang Lingling originally wanted to scold Yun Jian, but she didn't know that the people around her admired Yun even more. Pfft! What are you bragging about? Who knows if you're with her and purposely praising her? Lang Lingling glared fiercely at Yun Jian, and just when she was about to refute, Yun Jian suddenly narrowed her eyes, and she felt the slight change in the atmosphere. In the next second, the birds and beasts in the silent forest suddenly screamed and retreated as if they had met their natural enemy. What's wrong? Suddenly feeling the silence around her, and the chirping of the birds and beasts before they left, Lang Lingling was so scared that she trembled violently. Then she asked in fear. Just as he asked the question, a group of black people jumped out from all directions. These people were wearing clothes made of various animal skins. A few of them were bare-chested, and they held sharp wooden weapons in their hands. They surrounded Yun Jian and the others in the middle. When they saw these people who jumped out from all directions, the people around them exclaimed. The tour guide even shouted in surprise. Chapter 1406. When the tour guide saw the group of savages suddenly rushing out of the forest, he was obviously shocked. There was one reason for this shock, and that was that this group of savages was actually called the Savages tribe. There wasn't much difference between the savages and ordinary humans, but there was one difference. Although the savages didn't look much different from ordinary humans, their way of life was completely different. The savages in the Savages tribe were used to wearing clothes made of animal fur. Even their weapons were the most primitive bows and long weapons. The Savages tribe had their own language of communication, and they were usually as ferocious as beasts. Although the tour guide knew that there was a Savages tribe somewhere in the Amazon forest, he was never worried about encountering savages. That was because the savages in the Savages tribe had their own territories. Other than a few Amazon forests, they would never enter other territories. They were the kings of the Amazon forest. They had their own territory in the Amazon forest. They would never leave their territory to look for food in other places and would never allow outsiders to enter their territory. If anyone trespassed into their territory, they would take the initiative to attack the humans who strayed into their territory. If the savages were so ferocious, why didn't they use modern firearms to subdue them? There was only one explanation for this problem, and that was that in the Amazon forest, these savages were the kings of the jungle. They were familiar with the terrain and knew how to use the terrain to avoid guns. They could even jump around freely like monkeys using the branches and vines of the forest. That was why guns could not hit the savages. Entering the Savages tribe was a huge taboo in the Amazon forest. The tour guide's job was to avoid the risk of entering the Savages tribe and bring the tourists to the Amazon forest. However, the savages who had never left their territory in the Savages tribe suddenly appeared here and surrounded them. It was obvious that they were not friendly. At that moment, even the tour guide did not know why. Gu 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 gu. The savages started talking in their own language after they appeared. Yun Jian squinted her eyes and did not move. Lang Lingling, who was scared out of her wits after hearing the tour guide's words, suddenly turned around and screamed, "I don't want to be eaten." She wanted to run but was knocked unconscious by a savage after taking 2 steps. Not long after, the dozens of people present were suppressed by this group of savages. Yun Jian and Mu Ying did not resist. There were a lot of savages and they quickly tied up Yun Jian's group with vines and brought them to the tribe. It was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they were brought to the savage tribe. Yun Jian and dozens of others were exposed to the sun. The group of savages grabbed their long weapons and rushed to the cave noisily. "What is this place? Woo-woo, will we be eaten?" Lang Lingling screamed as soon as she was put down. With Lang Lingling's shout, the dozens of people around her were immediately frightened. Their faces were extremely pale, and they were all worried about what would happen next. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked around. Her heart was slightly touched. This place was still the same as before. Nothing had changed. Just as he was thinking about this, he saw the group of savages surrounding an older savage walking out of the cave. The group of savages were talking in their own language with a "gee-goo-goo" sound. The older savage was obviously the leader of this group of savages. After the barbarian leader walked over, a few of the barbarians carried out a few large pots from the cave. Lang Lingling could not hold it in anymore when she saw the pots. She said with tears flowing down her face, They are really going to eat us. I don't want to be eaten, I don't want to, woo-woo." As she screamed, she struggled to break free from the vines but to no avail. The savages surrounded the leader of the savages and surrounded Yun Jian's group. At the same time, this group of savages was talking in a language that no one could understand. After a while, the pots were lit on fire. The size of the pots was just right to contain a living person. Seeing this, not only Lang Lingling, everyone screamed. However, the vines were very strong. No one could break free from the vines. The leader of the savages said something and there were already savages walking towards Yun Jian's group. Just as those savages were about to reach Yun Jian's group, Yun Jian suddenly shouted at the leader of the savages. Even if they were going to be eaten, there should be an order. With Yun Jian's shout, those savages immediately noticed Yun Jian's group. Lang Lingling and a few others were beside Yun Jian. Lang Lingling was already so scared that she did not dare to say a word. However, with Yun Jian's shout, she successfully attracted the attention of those savages. "Are you crazy? If you want to die, don't drag us down. If you want to die, go and die yourself." Lang Lingling cried and shouted at Yun Jian. The people around Yun Jian instantly hated Yun Jian. Thus, they all started to point out Yun Jian's faults. However, at this moment, they saw the leader of the savages suddenly stop. Then, he hesitated and actually walked towards Yun Jian. An even more shocking scene happened. The leader of the savages took 2 steps towards Yun Jian's side. He cried out in shock and then strode towards Yun Jian. When he was 3 meters away from Yun Jian, he knelt down. The leader of the savages stretched out his hand and knelt down heavily towards Yun Jian. The rest of the savages saw their leader kneeling down towards Yun Jian and they all followed. In the next moment, all of the savages knelt down towards Yun Jian. The scene was shocking and everyone who was with Yun Jian was in an uproar. Even the tour guide was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. Others might not know, but as a tour guide, he was very clear. This group of savages had never bowed their heads to any humans. Any humans who accidentally entered their territory were like wanted criminals and would be hunted down by them. Usually, if one was kidnapped by the savages, the chances of survival were pitifully low. This group of savages were the kings of the jungle. They were familiar with the terrain and could use the terrain and years of wilderness survival experience to defeat any strong expert. However, today, they knelt down towards a human. This was a strange thing that the tour guide had never heard of in his entire life. Thus, the tour guide widened his eyes. The rest of the people who were with Yun Jian also widened their eyes. They were so shocked that they could not be described with words. Every pair of eyes stared at Yun Jian. It was as if they wanted an explanation and wanted to know what was going on. Why are they all kneeling towards Yun Jian? This is impossible. She's not their king? Aren't savages only going to listen to the king that they think is the most powerful? Why? Could it be? Could it be that Yun Jian is their king? Dan Chungjie was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. Chapter 1407. The world of the barbarians followed the law of survival in the jungle, where the strong ruled. Before entering this place, there was an introduction about the barbarians on the tour group's billboards. The reason why the tour group knew so much about the barbarians was because they had successfully captured a barbarian 3 months ago. Now, this barbarian was brought to a nearby research facility for research and observation. The world of the barbarians did not need the weak, where the strong ruled. A group of barbarians would form a tribe, just like this group of barbarians in the tribe. They would choose the strongest and most powerful barbarian to be the king of their tribe. Normally, the status of this barbarian in their tribe was similar to that of an emperor in ancient times. Unless you could defeat this king and take over the throne, otherwise, the barbarians in the tribe would listen to whatever the king said. This was the law of survival in the barbarians' tribe, where the strong ruled. This was stated on the tour guide's banner at the entrance, so everyone who stood here paid attention to it out of curiosity. But now, this group of barbarians who followed the law of survival actually knelt down in front of Yunjian under the lead of the barbarian who was obviously the leader of this group of barbarians. What did this mean? Oh my god, these barbarians are kneeling down to us humans. This is a strange story. I have never heard of it before. The barbarians in the tribe are very strict about survival in the jungle. They would never listen to the weak, not to mention kneeling down to a human. The tour guide was stunned. He stared blankly at the scene in front of him, which scared him out of his wits. He even regained his senses from the fear of being cooked alive by the barbarians just a moment ago. At this moment, everyone was staring blankly at Yun Jian. They watched as Yun Jian accepted the worship of the barbarians, but she did not show any signs of surprise. However, Yun Jian's expression was normal as she stared at the group of barbarians kneeling down in front of her. Yun Jian, what is going on? He Li Qing was holding the 3 blades she took from Yun Jian. She moved closer to Yun Jian and asked. At this moment, everyone present was tied up by vines. Just as He Li Qing moved closer to Yun Jian and asked, she saw Yun Jian tear apart the vines binding her body like she was holding a pair of scissors, then stood up. Yun Jian did not answer He Li Qing's question. Instead, she took 2 steps towards the group of barbarians who were kneeling down in front of her. After Yun Jian let go of the vines binding her, Mu Ying also let go of the vines and stood up. Yun Jian and Mu Ying looked as if they were not tied up by the vines at all. This scene frightened everyone around. Because Yun Jian and Mu Ying were indeed tied up just now. Therefore, the current situation could only be explained by the fact that the vines binding them were not a problem at all. Hey you guys! Hurry up and untie us! Seeing that Yun Jian and Mu Ying had broken free from the ropes, Leng Lingling felt uncomfortable being tied up by the vines, so she shouted at Yun Jian and Mu Ying's backs in a delicate manner. Leng Lingling had just shouted until here when she saw that Yun Jian did not respond to her. Instead, she strode forward and walked to where the leader of the barbarians was kneeling in front of her. Without saying anything, she walked over and viciously kicked the barbarian leader's abdomen, sending him flying 3 meters away on the spot. That way, it was as if she was punishing her own subordinates. Then, Yun Jian said a few words in the barbarian language in front of everyone. Her tone was rather fierce, scaring the group of barbarians until they started trembling. This scene shocked the crowd once again. Then, she turned around to look at everyone, and finally locked her gaze on the tour guide. Yun Jian, you actually know how to speak in the barbarian language. Who are you? Lang Hanja looked at Yun Jian in a daze and asked. Yun Jian, who was asked the crux of the matter, smiled faintly, but said something that shocked everyone present. I've been in the Amazon forest for half a year. If I can't even discipline my own subordinates in half a year, how can I deserve to be called king by them? Subordinates, she was referring to. Chapter 1408. You can say that. Yun Jian said as she walked in front of the tour guide. Standing in front of the tour guide, Yun Jian looked down at the tour guide who was still tied up by the vines. Then she asked the tour guide, "Where is the research facility? Where is the barbarian that you captured?" Although Yun Jian's words were a question, it didn't seem like she was asking a question. Instead, it sounded like she was interrogating the tour guide. The tour guide trembled. Perhaps it was because Yun Jian's kick that sent the barbarian leader flying was too ruthless. The tour guide was a little scared. He quickly said, It's in a building 200 meters away from the entrance of the Amazon forest. There is an Amazon forest wildlife research facility there. The barbarians that were captured earlier were also kept there for tourists to enjoy. The tour guide lost his confidence in the end. If the tour guide didn't guess wrongly, the reason why Yun Jian chose to follow the tour group was because she saw the description of the barbarian that was just captured on the tour group at the entrance. The truth was that Yun Jian followed the tour group because she saw the description of the barbarian that was captured and kept in the research facility. It was even kept for tourists to enjoy. The barbarian tribe actually owed Yun Jian a favor in the past. When she first entered the Amazon forest, Yun Jian didn't know anything. Later on, she accidentally entered the barbarian tribe. Because of Yun Jian's strength, the barbarians couldn't do anything to her. After following this group of barbarians, Yun Jian quickly learned how to survive in a natural environment like the Amazon forest. Later on, Yun Jian directly became the queen of the barbarian tribe. She was very clear that if she wanted to be the queen, the least she could do was not allow her subordinates to be bullied. Especially when it was kept for tourists to enjoy. This was something that Yun Jian couldn't tolerate. That was why Yun Jian joined the tour group to find out more information. As for why the barbarians left their own territory to attack the humans, it was because after the previous barbarian was captured, the barbarians who had a collective consciousness wanted to find their companion that was captured. In fact, because the barbarian was captured by humans, the group of barbarians hated humans. Just now, this group of savages really wanted to cook and eat Yun Jian and her group alive. And because Yun Jian had changed so much, the group of savages did not recognize Yun Jian at all. After all, Yun Jian was still very young when she stayed in the Amazon forest for 6 months. Her physical body was still that of her previous life. "Take me to the Wildlife Research Institute now," Yun Jian said to the tour guide. As soon as Yun Jian spoke, the tour guide looked a little embarrassed. The tour guide was here to lead the way. If he returned to the exit, wouldn't Ren Zhongwei, Dan Chengjia, and the other tourists have to follow him back? It's fine if you don't leave, but you can stay and be their dinner. Yun Jian pointed at the savages not far away. Now, no one dared to say that they didn't want to leave. Everyone was fighting to leave. Therefore, the group quickly untied the vines and walked towards the entrance of the Amazon forest. There was still some distance to the entrance of the Amazon forest. Yun Jian had too many secrets, so the tour guide couldn't help but ask Yun Jian as they walked, "You said you stayed in the Amazon forest for half a year?" "Yeah," Yun Jian replied coldly. The tour guide gulped. Before he could ask again, a foreign man who knew Chinese spoke up. "I heard that many assassin and secret agent organizations would throw their assassins or secret agents into the Amazon forest and let them survive for half a year without any weapons. It's a game where the weak are eliminated and the winner is the king. Could it be that you were thrown into the Amazon forest as a secret agent or an assassin?" Chapter 1409. After all, why would a normal girl come all the way to the Amazon forest for half a year? Let's not talk about whether her family would agree or not. A normal girl might not even know what kind of place the Amazon forest was, right? In 1999, the internet was not widely known yet, and there was no way to search for information on the internet. People in that era could only find out about major international news through newspapers, television, and other channels. As for a place like the Amazon forest, even adults might not know about it. Yun Jian was from Country Z, and Country Z was far from the Amazon forest, so the foreign man who spoke Chinese had to ask Yun Jian about it. The people around them suddenly heard the foreign man saying something they had never heard of before, so they all turned around to look. The foreign man stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds. It was obvious that this foreign man had some understanding of secret agents and assassins. "No comment," Yun Jian's words interrupted the foreign man's train of thought, and he rolled his eyes. Okay, I won't ask anymore. Can I ask for your name?" "All right, before I ask for your name, I'll tell you mine first. My name is Bala, I'm from Country G." After the foreign man named Bala introduced himself to Yun Jian, he walked side by side with Yun Jian while looking at Yun Jian. It seemed like he wanted to get her name from Yun Jian. "Yun Jian," she said briefly, there was nothing to hide. "Oh, Yun Jian, that's a nice Chinese name," Bala praised after hearing it. Yun Jian did not reply after that. On the other hand, Leng Lingling, who was beside Leng Hanja, was very interested when she heard Bala talk about secret agents and assassins. Guo Xiao, who was with Lang Hanja, was a police academy student, so he was very interested in such things as well. Hence, Guo Xiao and Lang Lingling started talking to Bala very quickly. Lang Lingling especially, she had never heard of secret agents and assassins, so she started chatting happily with Bala. Do secret agents and assassins really exist in this world? I always thought that they only existed in movies. Lang Lingling said to Bala longingly. Bala laughed heartily, and then said to Lang Lingling, "Of course it exists. And it's very likely that it's right next to you." When he said this, Bala seemed to be deep in thought. His gaze even drifted slightly. Really? Lang Lingling shrunk back in fear. She swallowed her saliva and asked Bala cautiously, "How did you know all this?" "I specifically looked into it," Bala said with a smile. Lang Lingling, Guo Xiao, and Bala's laughter could be heard along the way. Yun Jian and Mu Ying, who were walking at the front, remained calm and collected. Lu Yun's leg was bitten by the piranhas. At this moment, because she was anesthetized, she was supported by someone to move forward. For the time being, there was no fatal pain. At this moment, Lang Lingling, who was standing behind Yun Jian, once again asked Bala with an expectant tone, "Then who is the best secret agent or assassin in this world? Do you know?" Hearing Lang Lingling's question, Bala paused for a moment before answering Lang Lingling seriously. At the same time, his tone became solemn. "If you ask who is the best secret agent or assassin in this world, it's none other than the #1 secret agent, Slaying God." Hearing the two words Slaying God, even Lang Lingling, who had always ignored Yun Jian, could not help but become more solemn. When the people around them heard the two words, they paused in their steps as well. However, Bala's words were heard again. Slaying God, the #1 secret agent on the secret agent ranking, is the best secret agent in this world. She's the only secret agent who has escaped the control of an Hun organization. At the same time, she's also the true king of completing missions with a success rate of 100%. Chapter 14:10. Lang Lingling's tone was cautious when she asked the question, as if she was afraid that she might have asked something she should not have. In Lang Lingling's opinion, Bala must be an outstanding talent to know about such a powerful character. Therefore, Lang Lingling's attitude toward Bala was filled with obvious admiration. Yes, she's definitely the most powerful character on the secret agent and assassin leaderboard. Bala nodded solemnly at Lang Lingling. "Oh yeah, who's the Hun organization that you mentioned earlier?" Guo Xiao asked, catching on to a detail that Bala had mentioned earlier. Bala patiently explained to Guo Xiao as soon as Guo Xiao opened his mouth to ask. The Hun organization is the world's top assassin organization. Its position is on par with the Kosha mercenaries. If you accidentally offend the Hun organization or the Kosha mercenaries internationally, you'll be hunted down and killed. Even the people on the secret agent or assassin leaderboard are powerless against them. Bala was very patient when it came to secret agents and assassins. It was rare to meet someone who was interested in secret agents and assassins. Bala could not wait to tell Lang Lingling and Guo Xiao everything that she knew. Then, does that include the most powerful slaying god that you mentioned earlier? Lang Lingling's tone was filled with admiration when she mentioned slaying god. It was as if she was talking about someone whom she admired the most. Lang Lingling's tone even became cautious. Ever since Bala, Lang Lingling, and Guo Xiao mentioned slaying God, Yun Jian's ears kept ringing. Yun Jian listened but did not say a word. However, Bala continued. "No. Slaying God is an exception. I think even if slaying God offended the Hun organization, they won't be able to take her down. As for the Kosha mercenaries that I mentioned earlier, they're slaying God's own force." Lang Lingling and Guo Xiao could not help but gasp when they heard what Bala said. Toward the end, Bala lamented, "I think slaying God's achievements today are all thanks to her innate talent. That's how she got to where she is now so easily. Her talent is really enviable." Bala's lament made Lang Lingling and Guo Xiao fall silent. At this moment, Yun Jian suddenly snorted coldly. She secretly laughed and said, "Extraordinary talent? How did he reach his current position so easily? She was only able to get to where she is today by luck." She was referring to slaying God in his past life, his past life. "What do you know? You're just an ordinary military school girl. Do you really think that you're slaying God, the top secret agent on the secret agent ranking?" You keep talking about it. I think you're just jealous of slaying God's prowess. He's jealous. Yun Jian had just finished speaking when Lang Lingling continued. Yun Jian didn't want to pay attention to this. Yun Jian just took another step forward. At this moment, no one noticed that Bala, who was standing behind Yun Jian, had found the spot closest to Yun Jian. He suddenly clenched his fist and charged toward Yun Jian. His fist was about to land on Yun Jian. No one expected such a turn of events. While everyone was still in shock, they saw Yun Jian, who was walking in front, turn sideways reflexively. She reached out and turned her fist at lightning speed. In the next second, her fist collided with Bala's sneak attack. However, that was not the end. The moment Yun Jian's fist collided with Bala's, her hand snaked nimbly around Bala's wrist like a snake's body. In less than 3 seconds, Yun Jian had grasped Bala's weak spot. With a tug, she pinned Bala's hand down and used the force of her hand to pin Bala to the ground. This turn of events did not take more than 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Before anyone could react, Yun Jian had already subdued Bala, who had ambushed her, and ended the battle. When everyone realized what had happened, they were dumbfounded. No one expected Yun Jian to be so agile. Chapter 14:11. Bala's tone was eerie when he said that. It was completely different from how he looked at slaying God with admiration earlier. Everyone was dumbfounded by the turn of events. Especially when Bala was attacking Yun Jian at a ferocious speed but was subdued by Yun Jian. Everyone was dumbfounded. Slaying God? You. The slaying God you're talking about. Is she the one you told us about earlier? Lang Lingling's eyes widened. When the incident happened, Lang Lingling's eyes were wider than anyone else's. She stared at Yun Jian and Bala blankly, asking in disbelief. Isn't she Yun Jian? How could she be? Guo asked in horror. He shook his head and stared at Bala and Yun Jian. He wanted to know the truth. Their instincts told them that the slaying God that Bala mentioned earlier really existed in this world. However, that person was Yun Jian right in front of them? This was something that no one present was willing to believe. However, even if they did not believe it, they were still dumbfounded. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She grabbed Bala, but before she could speak, Bala had already turned his head to the side. Although Yun Jian held his hand, Bala still spoke to Lang Lingling, Guo, Lang Hanja, and the rest. How is that possible? How is that not possible? Didn't you see it clearly earlier? She captured me in an instant. I don't know anyone in this world who can capture me in an instant other than slaying God. Bala cackled and continued, I'm the second assassin on the assassin chart, Janice. Since I started my career, I've only met one opponent, and that person is slaying God. As he spoke, Bala stretched out his free hand and placed it on his face. He gently tore at a line along the contours of his face. Then, that familiar face was directly peeled off. Ah! Lang Lingling saw Bala tear her face off, and she took 2 steps back in fright. What Bala, who was also Janice, did not surprise her. It was obvious that Yun Jian knew that Janice had changed his appearance. She also knew that Janice's face was covered by a human skin mask. However, even if Yun Jian had seen through this, she was not a god and did not know Janice's identity. Yun Jian didn't know until this moment, but she didn't appear to be very surprised. She had wanted to deny her identity as slaying God earlier, but Janice seemed to have known what she was planning to do. Before she could say a word, he had cut off all excuses to deny her identity. Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. Yun Jian was no stranger to Janice. Janice, who was ranked second on the assassin ranking, was indeed a powerful character. He was good at tracking and counter-tracking. In her previous life, Yun Jian had encountered Janice before, and it was Janice who came to her and was beaten up by her. Therefore, Yun Jian was not surprised that Janice recognized her. Yun Jian. You. It's impossible. How can you be the slaying god who is ranked first on the assassin ranking? Slaying god should be a great and powerful character. How can it be you? Lang Lingling did not believe it, and she would not believe it either. The people around them looked at Yun Jian in disbelief. Everyone thought so. After all, Yun Jian was still young. I'm afraid you're the only one in this world who came to me to be beaten up. Janice, it's been a long time. Yun Jian's lips curved into a red arc. Everyone was shocked and in disbelief when she said that calmly. Especially when she said, "Long time no see." It could be considered as a direct admission of her identity. Leng Lingling, Guo Xiao, Lang Hanja and the rest were dumbfounded. Was she not a student from Min City's military school? Chapter 14:12. Yun Jian ignored the crowd's reaction. After Yun Jian finished her sentence, she released her grip on Janice. At the same time, she extended her leg. Before Janice could react, she kicked Janice's waist in the back, causing him to stumble forward. Janice was not an ordinary person. After being kicked by Yun Jian, he staggered 2 steps forward before regaining his footing. He turned around, wiped the corner of his mouth, and looked at Yun Jian. Slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, is among this group of useless people. I didn't expect that. Teske. Janice stared back at Yun Jian without backing down as he spoke. Did he just call everyone present a group of useless people? The crowd had just recovered from their shock. After hearing what Janice said, they were all furious. However, no one dared to voice their anger. Janice claimed to be the #2 assassin on the assassin ranking. An assassin. That was someone who could kill. Moreover, he was the #2 assassin on the assassin ranking. Tell me what you want. Yun Jian stood calmly on the spot. She narrowed her eyes and looked lazy, but she was more alert than everyone present. Janice was not someone who was easy to control. He was completely different from Mad Dragon and Peter. How could the #2 assassin on the assassin ranking be a weakling? If he was a weakling, the #2 assassin ranking would definitely not belong to him. After all, there was a huge difference between the top 3 assassins or secret agents on the assassin ranking and the top 10 assassins or secret agents on the ranking. In other words, anyone who could climb to the top 3 would be an all-powerful and fearsome existence in the entire world who heard of their names. Hee. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to ask you for a favor. Janice did not beat around the bush and asked Yun Jian directly in front of the stunned crowd. Initially, the crowd thought that since Yun Jian was also a powerful character, she would definitely reach an agreement with Janice who was equally powerful. After all, it was common knowledge to have one more friend and one less enemy. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would gladly agree to Janice's request and even befriend him, she spoke abruptly, "You're right. You have to know that with your skills, you don't have the right to ask for a favor from me." Yun Jian's words were laced with arrogance. The crowd was stunned. However, Janice continued to speak to Yun Jian. "Teskaze. In that case, we'll have to face each other head-on." With that, Janice reached out and took out a Browning pistol from the travel bag that he had been carrying along. Janice held the pistol in his hand and pointed the muzzle at Yun Jian. When the crowd saw the Browning pistol, they all became restless. "Gun. It's a gun. Ah!" The one who reacted the most was Lang Lingling. The moment Lang Lingling saw the pistol, she screamed and wanted to run away. Lang Hanja, Guo Xiao, Lu Yun, He Liqing, Dan Chengjie, Ren Zhongwei, and the others wanted to run away. However, they heard Yun Jian's voice that was not at a disadvantage. "Do you think you can defeat me with just a gun?" Yun Jian's voice was light. However, when she spoke, everyone was shocked. Chapter 14:13. Although Janice's achievements in the underworld were not as good as slaying gods, there was no doubt that Janice was one of the best in the underworld. His achievements were second only to slaying gods. Although his ability was not as good as slaying gods, his achievements in completing missions were close to slaying gods. If slaying God was the king of the underworld, then Janice was undoubtedly the king's best subordinate. There was no one else. Janice's achievements were not something that could be erased by a single person's words. After all, he was not an ordinary assassin, but an elite ranked second on the assassin ranking. However, this was only limited to the ordinary. Who is it? Who is it? How can my achievements be reduced to nothingness just because you say so? Janice circled the forest a few times but could not find the person who had spoken. He frowned and began to be cautious of his surroundings. Other than slaying God, there was someone else who could speak right under his nose and he could not find the person. No matter who this person was, Janice dared not let his guard down. Yun Jian's eyes flickered. The mellow voice was just right. It was so magnetic that any woman present could imagine his handsome face just by listening to his voice. There was no doubt that it belonged to him. How did he get here so quickly? Yunjian had initially planned for Ce to arrive a day later than her. Yunjian did not know that Ce had rushed here so quickly just to see her. But where was he? Damn it! What's the point of hiding? Come out if you dare. What do you mean by your woman? Who's your woman? Who the F***ck did I lay my hands on? Jenny's eyes darted around, purposely provoking Ce to show himself. In fact, Ce did not bother to hide himself. In the next second, a person appeared above them. Wasn't that Ce? He had been standing on the tree and looking at Janice coldly earlier. However, he had hidden himself so well that Janice could not find him. Ce jumped down from the tree handsomely. When he did so, he had a hand in his trouser pocket. His handsome face was presented to the crowd. Especially that head of short hair. It was so black that people couldn't take their eyes off it. Coupled with that handsome face that angered both men and gods, everyone present was captivated. Even Janice felt that something was wrong. His body trembled, and he felt an inexplicable tremble in his body. However, he was the number 2 assassin on the international assassin ranking. The kid in front of him looked to be at most 20 years old. When he came out of the underworld, the other party was still drinking milk in his mother's arms. Thinking of this, Janice became bolder. Who are you? You don't have the right to speak here, you. Janice's clenched fist was already swinging at Ce as he spoke. Seeing this, Ce frowned and suddenly spat out. Noisy. You can die now. As soon as he finished his sentence, Janice's fist had already landed in front of Ce. Everyone present sucked in a breath of air. No one wanted to see that handsome face get beaten up. Just as they were thinking of this, a pair of fair and slender hands caught Janice's fist easily. At the same time, Ce lifted his slender leg and kicked Janice away at lightning speed. His movement was much faster than Yunjian's. This kick caused Janice to spit out a mouthful of blood. Janice pointed at Ce and said in disbelief, "You? The only person who can be faster than slaying God is dark." The last word ended with Ce's foot in the air as he sprinted forward. Bam! Ce kicked Janice's abdomen and destroyed his internal organs on the spot. Janice died violently in front of everyone. Everyone who saw this was so shocked that their faces turned pale. Lang Lingling almost fainted from the shock. Ce, who was on the other end, did not even take his hands out of his pockets. He glanced at Janice in disgust. "I don't care about your military exploits, but you'll be reduced to nothingness if you dare to lay your hands on my woman." Chapter 14:14. Yunjian gulped. Janice was an unexpected character to begin with. Yunjian did not plan to get rid of him. She even had the thought of roping him into the kosher mercenaries. After all, if someone like Janice were to join the kosher mercenaries forces would definitely double. Ever since the kosher mercenaries had gotten rid of the subordinates of the previous kosher mercenaries boss, the old men's forces had been completely eliminated as well. Of course, the consequence of this was that the kosher mercenaries forces had yet to be reorganized for quite some time. Therefore, Yunjian's favorite thing to do now was to rope people into her kosher mercenaries. However, with Ce's interference, just as she thought about it, a hand appeared around her waist. Ce pulled Yunjian into his arms and pressed himself against Yunjian, his deep voice coming from above. "Xiao Jian, what are you thinking about? Why did you kill him?" Yunjian asked with a frown. Ce's expression darkened at the question. "Isn't it better to kill him?" "I wanted to invite him to join the kosher mercenaries," Yunjian stated her intention. "Xiao Jian, as long as you serve me well, the entire Hun group will be yours." "I'll be yours too." Ce could not hold himself back and murmured softly against Yunjian's earlobe. Of course, these were all whispers between Yunjian and Ce. The people around them could only see Ce killing Janice and walking to Yunjian to lean against her. Other than that, they could not see anything else. Ce's words made Yunjian blush. She nudged Ce quickly and thought of something else. "Where's Mad Dragon?" "Over there." How could he not listen to his wife and bring Mad Dragon over? Ce pointed in that direction. Yunjian turned to look and saw Mad Dragon sauntering over lazily. Yun Jian could clearly see that Mu Ying, who was standing not far away, froze when she saw Mad Dragon. Mu Ying was still young when she died. She was only about 9 years old. Mad Dragon was still young back then as well. A person's appearance would change with age, but a person's silhouette would not change much. This was why some people could tell whose childhood photo it was at a glance. The moment Mu Ying saw Mad Dragon, she was stupefied. Of a sudden, she realized that she was no longer who she used to be. She did not even have a body. She was only left with a consciousness. This consciousness was transferred to this little girl by the perverted professor back then. Right now, he was like a walking corpse. What right did she have to see him? Lang Hanja could clearly see the change in Mu Ying's expression when she saw Mad Dragon. He felt very uneasy. Ying. Lang Hanja looked at Mu Ying. He wanted to help Mu Ying up, but Mu Ying did not let him touch her and ran into the depths of the forest. Mad Dragon, who was standing far away, felt Mu Ying's gaze. He suddenly retracted his lazy posture. When he glanced at Mu Ying, he felt a sense of familiarity. Yun Jian knew that Mad Dragon and Mu Ying had a relationship when they were in the organization. After Mu Ying died, Mad Dragon killed the group of people who had tricked him into going out. He could not make it back in time to save Mu Ying. To this day, Mad Dragon did not have any women by his side. Not a single one. Ever since Mu Ying died, Mad Dragon's world was only filled with killing, killing, and killing. He only knew how to use killing to numb himself. Yun Jian suddenly walked in front of Mad Dragon. She signaled to Mad Dragon that Mu Ying had run away and said, "Do you still remember him? Why?" Yun Jian did not point it out, but Mad Dragon suddenly realized something. In the next second, Mad Dragon ran madly towards Mu Ying. Mu Ying ran as fast as she could. Her strength had stagnated at the age of 9. She did not give up on training after her consciousness was sucked into this body by the perverted professor. However, she knew that she was no longer a complete person, and she was not worthy of meeting Mad Dragon. She did not even have her own body. Mu Ying ran faster and faster. In the end, she didn't even notice the vines on the ground. She was tripped by the vines and fell to the ground, but she didn't feel pain. She just sat on the ground and silently let her tears flow. She did not know why she was crying. "My silly girl, I have been looking for you for more than 10 years. You are still as silly as before." Suddenly, a soft male voice came from behind. Mu Ying paused. She knew who the male voice was, but she did not dare to turn around. However, she felt the owner of the male voice squat down and hugged her from behind. He pulled her up from the ground with one hand and then pulled her into his arms. Chapter 14-15. After Mad Dragon finished speaking, Mu Ying's body trembled even more. It was a feeling of agitation, excitement, happiness, and despair. She didn't know what to say, and neither did Mad Dragon. The two of them stood there in a daze. Mad Dragon hugged her and didn't move an inch. It wasn't until the sound of footsteps came from behind her, and a furious male voice rang out, that everything was stopped. This furious male voice came from the mouth of the boy she had been familiar with for more than 10 years, but had never fallen in love with. "Who are you? Let go of my Ying." After Yun Jian saw Mu Ying running away, Mad Dragon chased after her. In the end, Lang Hanja chased after her as well. After Lang Hanja chased after her, Lang Lingling, Guo and the rest all ran after her. The only people left standing were Dan Chengjie and the 2 groups of tourists. When Yun Jian saw this, she also ran over. Before she ran over, she said to Ce, "I'll go take a look." After Yun Jian went over, Ce scanned the scene with a pair of sharp eyes. Then she left with Yun Jian. "I'll kill whoever dares to come over." Coupled with the sight of Jana's corpse on the ground, everyone's legs stiffened. At this moment, no one dared to follow them. However, they didn't dare to leave this place on their own. After all, this was the Amazon forest. Coupled with the danger they had encountered previously, this group of people could only stand there and wait for Yun Jian to return. When Yun Jian arrived, she saw Lang Hanja looking at Mad Dragon hugging Mu Ying. He roared at Mad Dragon, "Who are you? Let go of my Ying," and rushed forward. Lang Lingling, who was standing behind Lang Hanja, shouted at Lang Hanja's back, "Brother!" Then, she glared hatefully at Mu Ying, who was being hugged by Mad Dragon from behind. It's all her fault. It was all her fault. Go to hell. Why don't a fickle woman like you go to hell? My brother has been chasing you for so many years. If you were a human, you would have responded to him long ago. What about you? Not only did you not respond to him, but you even hugged another man. How shameless. Lang Lingling didn't give any face to Mu Ying and cursed her with all kinds of words. Just as Lang Hanja was about to run forward and try to pull Mad Dragon away from Mu Ying's waist, Mad Dragon suddenly reached out a hand and grabbed Lang Hanja's collar. Lang Hanja was thrown far away. Brother. Ah, you two are having an affair. Shameless. Lang Lingling saw her brother Lang Hanja being thrown out. She was so angry that she wanted to rush over. Lang Lingling wanted to rush forward, but she was caught by Yun Jian. Yun Jian grabbed Lang Lingling's collar and slapped her 3 times. Slap. 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 The 3 slaps were exceptionally loud in the silent forest. When Lang Lingling came back to her senses, she glared at Yun Jian angrily. How dare you hit me? Why wouldn't I dare to hit you? Your brother's feelings for Mu Ying are just one-sided. Does she have to be with your brother just because he likes her? Yun Jian scoffed. No. Ying and I are from the same world. Since we were young, everyone around us said that we're a match made in heaven. Moreover, we're both from military families, so we're the best match. He's a despicable person. He's a despicable person. Lang Hanja was in pain, but he endured it and got up from the ground. He pointed at Mad Dragon and said hatefully. Yun Jian laughed when she heard that. She sneered and asked Lang Hanja, "Do you know who I am?" Lang Hanja, Lang Lingling, and the rest only reacted when they heard Yun Jian's question. She was a secret agent. The kind that could kill. Moreover, she was the #1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking, slaying God. Just as they thought that, they heard Yun Jian say with a smirk, "She's the same as I am. She who once lived a life of war will never be from the same world as you." Yun Jian's words stunned Lang Hanja and Lang Lingling. What? Mu Ying. Chapter 14:16. They would never be from the same world? His Mu Ying was also a secret agent? Lang Hanja was stunned. He had never thought of this possibility. Lang Hanja was already shocked when he found out that Yun Jian was the #1 secret agent on the secret agent ranking list. He never expected Yun Jian to say that he and Mu Ying would never be from the same world. Because was she the same as Yun Jian? No. That's impossible. Ying has always been by my side since I was young. She never left me. How could she be the kind of person you're talking about? I don't believe it. You're that kind of person yourself. Don't compare my Ying to you. Lang Hanja loved Mu Ying to the point of insanity. He didn't believe Yun Jian's words at all. He even yelled at Yun Jian. Yun Jian chuckled at Lang Hanja's words. Mu Ying stood up and let go of Mad Dragon's embrace. She stopped Yun Jian. Yun Jian, this is my problem. I'll settle it myself. Mu Ying had recovered from the tense atmosphere. Okay. Yun Jian nodded and stood beside Ce, who had just walked over. Lang Hanja looked at Mu Ying with pleading eyes, as if he wanted to get the answer he wanted. But Mu Ying said, Yun Jian is right. I'm not the real Mu Ying. I'm just a wisp of consciousness. The real Mu Ying died in a car accident when she was young. Do you still remember that crazy doctor? He was the one who injected my consciousness into the dead Mu Ying. As for me, I was just a nameless assassin in the Hun organization back then. I was once abducted into the organization along with hundreds of other children. I lived an ignoble existence in the cruel world. In the end, my limbs were cut off, my heart was dug out while I was still alive, and I was a pitiful little girl who was torn apart by wolves and dogs. Your Mu Ying, your beloved Mu Ying, is dead. Mu Ying's words hit the nail on the head. Lang Hanja was stunned by Mu Ying's words. He couldn't believe it, and he didn't dare to imagine that the girl he had loved since he was a child had changed halfway through. You're lying to me. Lang Hanja shouted at Mu Ying like a madman. Mu Ying stopped breathing after the car accident. I was the one who came back to life when she was buried, so she is already dead. I am me, I am MY. Mu Ying suddenly raised her voice. This made Lang Hanja completely believe him, and his mind was in a mess. If that was the case, then what was he? Did he love the young Mu Ying or the current Mu Ying? What was he after? Lang Hanja sat on the ground, completely paralyzed. How did you die? Cut off your limbs? Dug out your heart? Torn apart by wolves and dogs? This is a lawful society. How could such a cruel thing happen? Lang Lingling didn't care if Lang Hanja believed it or not. Lang Lingling's focus wasn't on the fact that Mu Ying was no longer the Mu Ying she used to be. Lang Lingling, Guo Xiao and the others were just normal students after all. They had never heard of such a horrifying way of dying. Not to mention that such a horrifying person was standing right in front of them. Lang Lingling felt a chill run down her spine. Mu Ying didn't reply to Lang Lingling, but Yun Jian did. Yun Jian smirked and told Lang Lingling, "You're right." Chapter 14-17. Lang Lingling and this group of obedient girls who were protected in the arms of their parents would never be able to understand how they, who lived in this cruel and murderous world, managed to survive. Perhaps to them, the best life wasn't that tomorrow would be better than today, but that tomorrow they were still alive, that they weren't dead yet. Hearing Yun Jian's serious words, Lang Lingling gulped. She was sure that the current Mu Ying was no longer the Mu Ying of the past. After all, Mu Ying was her best friend when they were young. Ever since Mu Ying got into a car accident when they were young, she changed. She often hid in a corner and ignored her and her brother, Lang Hanja. From then on, Lang Lingling hated Mu Ying. Perhaps Lang Lingling didn't hate Mu Ying back then. She just didn't want to play with Mu Ying anymore. Later on, Mu Ying refused to be with her brother, Lang Hanja. Seeing how her brother did so much for Mu Ying but didn't get anything in return, Mu Ying started to hate Mu Ying. Lang Lingling believed it when she got the answer. The Mu Ying of the past and Mu Ying after the car accident were too different. But Lang Hanja was different. He didn't believe it because he didn't want to accept the truth. Is the world you live in really that scary? Lang Lingling muttered after hearing Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian ignored Lang Lingling this time and smiled coldly. Yun Jian, we. Mu Ying, who was standing not far away, signaled Yun Jian. Yun Jian saw Mu Ying's signal and suddenly realized something. Then, Yun Jian walked towards Lang Lingling. Mu Ying walked towards Lang Hanja. Seeing Mu Ying walking towards him, Lang Hanja thought that his Ying was back. Ying, are you planning to? Before Lang Hanja could finish his sentence, Mu Ying appeared in front of Lang Hanja and knocked him unconscious with a horizontal slash. Brother! You guys! Lang Lingling was so shocked by the sudden turn of events that she let out a cry. Just as she spoke, she was knocked unconscious by Yun Jian. Lang Hanja and the others fainted. These people's memories could not be kept, especially since they already knew that Yun Jian was the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. After the group of people were knocked unconscious, Yun Jian took out 3 bottles of chemical solvent from her bag. The liquid in these bottles was a new liquid called the 3-hour amnesia liquid that Qing Yu had recently developed. As long as a person drank a little of this liquid, they would forget everything that happened 3 hours ago. This was Qing Yu's latest product and it was one of a kind in the world. She did not sell it but gave Yun Jian 3 bottles. Yun Jian's identity as the top secret agent ranking, slaying God, was exposed. Not only would Lang Hanja and the rest have to forget about it, even the group of people who came with the tour group would have to forget about it. Therefore, after knocking out Lang Hanja and the rest, Yun Jian gave each of them a drop of the amnesia liquid. She then got Mad Dragon to knock out everyone in the tour group and gave each of them the 3-hour amnesia liquid. They were very close to the entrance of the Amazon forest, so they were not afraid that no one would notice them if they were knocked out. Yun Jian only used 1/3 of the 3-hour amnesia liquid from one of the 3 bottles. By the time Yun Jian rescued the savage from the Wildlife Research Institute nearby and brought him back to the tribe, it was already evening. Lang Hanja and the rest, including Dan Chengjia and the tour group, were all knocked out. It was obvious that they had forgotten everything that happened 3 hours ago. Chapter 14-18. They did not find the old man who had saved Mu Ying back then, so Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and the others returned to Min City. Mu Ying was saved by the old man when she entered the Amazon forest. If it were not for him, Mu Ying would not have been able to survive 6 months in the Amazon forest with her ability back then. Yun Jian, on the other hand, had survived there for 6 months with her own ability. Compared to Yun Jian, Mu Ying's ability was indeed weaker. It was also evident that Yun Jian was one of a kind to be able to survive 6 months in the Amazon forest with her age back then. Mu Ying was grateful to the old man for saving her life back then, but she still could not find him even after walking around the Amazon forest and nearly turning over the soil on the ground. In the end, Mu Ying could only accept her fate and return to Min City. Mu Ying went back to Min City while Yun Jian went back to Longmen City. Mu Ying went to Min City with Mad Dragon as well. Although Mu Ying felt that she was not good enough for Mad Dragon now, she could not bear to chase Mad Dragon away, so both of them went back together. Yun Jian went back to Longmen City with Ce. After staying in Longmen City for 3 to 4 days, the 7-day break after the military training was over. Yun Jian was ready to head back to Min City's military academy for class. Ce did not have time to accompany Yun Jian to class, but before Yun Jian left, he hugged Yun Jian and let Yun Jian sit on his lap affectionately for a while. Xiao Jian, I can't get away for a while. Come to and hunt for me later. In the room, Ce hugged Yun Jian's slim waist, refusing to let her go. He let Yun Jian sit on his lap and pressed his lips to Yun Jian's ear softly. Yun Jian was numb from Ce's breath, but she dared not move. She was pinned down by Ce, so she could only curl up and take it. She dared not move because she was sitting on his lap. Yun Jian was wearing a short white skirt and a pair of panties today. Ce's pants were so thin that it was as if he was wearing nothing. She was so shy that her face turned red. Let go of me, I have to catch the bus. I'll be late for class. Yun Jian pushed Ce as she blushed. No. He spoke even more boldly. As he spoke, he placed his slender hand on her smooth thigh under her short skirt and gently rubbed it. Xiao Jian, you're so beautiful. Ce almost wanted to melt into her body. Xiao Jian, it's 6. The bus leaves at 6:30. Aren't you awake yet? You'll be late for school later. Qin Yiru's voice rang as she came up the stairs. The sudden voice made Yun Jian blush as she pushed Ce again. With this push, a certain part of her body that was only covered by a thin layer of clothing rubbed against him twice. It would have been fine if it was not rubbing, but once it did, Yun Jian could feel a certain part of Ce's body bulging. With that, Ce's breathing beside her quickened. Let go. Yun Jian's expression could no longer be described as bashful. Xiao Jian, why aren't you up yet? You weren't like this before. Get up now. Qin Yiru came up the stairs and was coming to the room. Xiao Jian, move again and I'll take you, Ce suddenly whispered in Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian's face flushed at once and she did not move anymore. Chapter 14:19. Just as Qin Yiru opened the door, she saw Yun Jian standing in front of her in a white miniskirt. Her daughter was looking at her with a blushing face. Xiao Jian, what's wrong? Qin Yiru was surprised. Did you bully Ae? What Qin Yiru said next, however, made Yun Jian wonder if she was Qin Yiru's biological daughter. Mom, I didn't. Yun Jian said as she walked around Qin Yiru and went downstairs, reaching for her bag as she walked. Breakfast is on the dining table. Remember to bring it to the car. Qin Yiru watched Yun Jian's back as she hurried down the stairs. She covered her mouth and chuckled before calling out to Yun Jian. Yun Jian hummed in response and went downstairs to pick up the breakfast that Qin Yiru had put in a white plastic bag from the dining table before heading out. She drove the car to Min City Military Academy. The 7-day holiday was over and today was the 10th of September. It was also the official start of Yun Jian's school at Min City Military Academy. Hence, Qin Yiru wanted her to change into a white miniskirt with a pink top. Yun Jian did not mind as she changed into it. She was also puzzled why Ce did not tell her to wear such a short skirt today. Shaking her head to stop thinking about it, Yun Jian picked up her breakfast and carried her bag before heading out. Inside the house, Ce smirked. He was still thinking about how alluring Yun Jian looked under her miniskirt. He would never tell anyone that he did not stop Yun Jian from wearing such a short skirt today because, cough. It was already 8:30 a.m. when she arrived at Min City Military Academy. 9 o'clock was the school arrival time. Considering that the students came from far away, the school purposely allowed them to arrive before 9 o'clock on the first day. The next day, he would wake up at his normal time. Yunjian attracted a lot of attention as soon as she arrived at school. She still had her hair tied up in a high ponytail, but she wore a white short skirt and a pink top. She had a beautiful face, and her perfect face attracted the attention of countless people around her. Even the girls couldn't help but take a few more glances. Yunjian, I'm here. Come here quickly. Lin Wan was already waiting for Yunjian at the school gate. When she saw Yunjian, she rushed over and looked at Yunjian from head to toe. Hey, Yunjian, this short skirt really matches you. It's so beautiful. As she spoke, Lin Wan looked around again. She didn't see Mu Ying. Why isn't Mu Ying here today? I remember that she was always the first one to arrive. Let's stand here and wait. Yunjian pointed at the security post at the school gate and said. Lin Wan nodded. Then, she stood with Yunjian at the security post at the school gate and waited for Mu Ying. Just as Yunjian and Lin Wan stood there, a female teacher on duty at the school gate who was less than 1.5 meters tall and wore a pair of stilettos saw Yunjian. She was about 150 kilograms in weight but was less than 1.5 meters tall. She was dressed fashionably in a pair of stilettos. The female teacher on duty saw Yunjian's beautiful figure. She was even wearing a white short skirt. Her perfect figure really made people jealous. So the female teacher on duty came over and shouted at Yunjian, "Which class are you from?" Yelling wasn't enough. The female teacher even handed her duty book to Yunjian. Then she shouted at Yunjian, "Write down your class name. Our school is a military school. Since you're here, don't you know the rules of the military school?" Chapter 14:20. The female teacher's voice trembled as she spoke. Her breasts were very big, and they kept trembling as she spoke. The female teacher's breasts were very big, but the fat on her abdomen was even bigger. As her breasts trembled, the fat on her abdomen trembled even more fiercely than the fat on her breasts. When the female teacher said this, she did not give Yunjian and Lin Wan a chance to speak. Instead, she spoke even more fiercely. Her words were like a machine gun, and she did not even give them a chance to take a breather. "You girls only know how to dress up. How dare you come to school wearing such a short skirt? This is a military school. Hey, do you know what a military school is? Don't make yourself look like a gorgeously dressed chicken. The boys in our military school will fight for the country's career in the future. They won't waste themselves by dating little girls like you. You girls, why don't you go to high school and come to our military school? Don't tell me you're here to seduce our boys to date you?" The female teacher on duty was getting more and more ridiculous with her words. Yunjian did not know the rules of the military school, but since she had broken the rules by wearing a short skirt as Qin Yiru said, she, Yunjian, was not the kind of person who would ignore the school rules. Yunjian had already taken the duty book and pen from the female teacher on duty. She planned to write her name and class on it. Since she had made a mistake, she was not the kind of person who would not admit it. However, this female teacher acted as if she had killed someone. She had not stopped talking since she spoke. This made Yunjian, who was about to write her name and class on the duty book, stop. "Hurry up and write. Write your name and class on it. You broke the school rules, so you should be deducted points." The female teacher on duty saw that Yunjian had stopped writing, so she frowned and urged her. "Teacher, this is our first offense, and we are freshmen. We have not learned the school rules. My friend will not wear short skirts in the future. Can you not deduct this point?" Lin Wan spoke up for Yunjian. Usually, the first 1 or 2 weeks of school was for the students to get used to the school rules and regulations. Even if the students' names were recorded during the week of duty, the points would not be deducted. This was because the students would definitely need to adapt to a new school. However, at this moment, Teacher Zhou was planning to directly deduct Yunjian's class's score. Therefore, Lin Wan was not convinced. "As a student, how dare you talk back to your teacher?" The female teacher raised her voice at Lin Wan when she heard that. The female teacher had always thought that the military academy could only be a world for men. Girls like Yunjian and Lin Wan, why did they come to the military academy to study? For a young lady to come to a military academy to study, other than wanting to fish for men, what else could she do? If they were asked to train, even the simplest thing like standing in a military posture in the morning would probably make them faint from the sun. If they trained for a long time, they would even complain that they would become tanned. They would even have to apply sunscreen before training. Wasn't this talking about these girls who came to the military academy? Why did they not attend a normal school but came to the military academy to suffer? Wasn't it just to hook up with male students? The more the female teacher thought about it, the more she felt that girls like Yunjian and Lin Wan were despicable. She was about to use an even more exaggerated tone to insult Yunjian and Lin Wan. A male voice came from the side. Yunjian? Why are you standing here? The person who spoke was Gu Yunjian's comrade, Yu Xiaoluo. Yu Xiaoluo was also an instructor at Min City's military academy. When the female teacher saw Yu Xiaoluo, she was stunned. She was about to point out Yunjian's evilness to Yu Xiaoluo. In the end, she heard Yu Xiaoluo pat Yunjian's shoulder and praise her. Yunjian, you're really something. You've won first place in the wilderness survival event. Only the three of you were sent straight to the elite class among the freshmen. Haha, Slashing God from Team Monarch lives up to her name indeed. You're amazing. Chapter 14:21. The news of Team Monarch Slashing God entering Min City's military academy as a freshman had spread like wildfire in the academy. Even if the female teacher did not pay attention to the news, she would have heard about Team Monarch Slashing God's impressive feats from others, not to mention that she was a snobbish teacher. The female teacher liked to hang out with other teachers in school and gossip about the male instructors and female teachers' family matters. She would also gossip about the new talent in the school and whether the talent had a backer. When she saw Yunjian and Lin Wan earlier, the female teacher instinctively assumed that Yunjian and Lin Wan were the kind of girls who came to the military academy to seduce the boys. She assumed that they came to the military academy for that. The female teacher hated girls who had no power or influence, had a better figure than her, dressed up to the nines in the military academy, and swaggered around the boys like chicks. Moreover, the school's rules clearly stated that female students were not allowed to wear short skirts. Using that as an excuse, the female teacher caught Yunjian and planned to give Yunjian a good scolding. That was what the female teacher thought and did. She wanted to teach Lin Wan, who was beside Yunjian, a lesson as well. However, she did not expect Yu Xiaoluo, Instructor Yu, to appear here. Instructor Yu was widely recognized as a young and promising instructor in the school. He was young and a very capable instructor. The female teacher wanted to use that as an excuse to criticize Yunjian in front of Instructor Yu so that he could help her teach Yunjian a lesson. However, Yu Xiaoluo walked up to Yunjian and patted Yunjian's shoulder, saying what he said earlier. Team Monarch Slashing God. Before Team Monarch Slashing God entered Min City's military academy, she had already caused a stir among all the instructors in the school. She had even caused the instructors to fight for her to join their team. A few days ago, she even won first place in the military training's outdoor survival event and was directly admitted to the elite class with two other girls. It was said that on the last day of the outdoor survival event, she represented Min City's military academy and destroyed the pride of Wulin Military Academy, which had always been at odds with Min City's military academy. Now, in Min City's military academy, Slashing God was the symbol of a legend. Even the instructors and teachers in the school could not help but feel respect when they heard the word. What more a mere female teacher like her? The female teacher on duty's face dropped to the freezing point. Yu Xiaoluo didn't know what the female teacher had just done. After hearing the female teacher's words, he laughed out loud and then responded to the female teacher. That's right, the killing god that everyone in our school is talking about is her. What do you think? Are you surprised? When I saw her this morning, I had the same reaction as you. I thought she was a weak little girl. But who would have thought? Haha. As soon as Yu Xiaoluo finished, the female teacher's face turned as red as a chili pepper. Not only did she suspect Yunjian, she even tried to make things difficult for Yunjian. However, the female teacher was also a person who changed her face faster than flipping a book. When she heard that Yunjian was slashing God, she immediately turned to look at Yunjian and put on a smiling face that almost squeezed her wrinkles together. So this beautiful girl is slashing God. I really didn't expect that. Haha. As she spoke, the teacher looked at her watch and told Yunjian with a grin, Students go to class. 9 o'clock in the morning is considered as being late. Go now. It'll be bad if your homeroom teacher catches you being late. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.